Damn it. That's not how it works. Sacrifice? Wouldn't she be dead? She still had a lot of things to do. She still had to give birth to a monkey for the pretty boy. She still had to save her mother. She was still looking for her father. Was she going to die just like that? Heishinjo knew that she definitely couldn't run away now. After all, her spiritual power was weak compared to these people. There was no chance of escaping at all. The damn Great Void Mirror was still in hibernation. Otherwise, she could hide inside the Great Void Mirror. What should she do now? Just as Heishinjo was burning with anxiety, she realized that many women were looking at her with jealousy and indignation in their eyes. Heishinjo was dumbfounded. Are these people sick? Do they all want to be sacrificed? Are they all so aware that they would rather sacrifice their lives for the so-called nonsense? Just as Heishinjo was in a daze, a maid from the Divine Hall came over. Miss Yunjo, please follow me. Heishinjo secretly gritted her teeth. She could only take it one step at a time. If she really could not do it, she would think of a way to kidnap the National Master. Fuck, there would be a place for her if she did not leave the Master here. After all, she could not die. Yun Chujo followed the maid to the bottom of the altar. This fellow was pondering in his heart. Was he going to burn her to death or chop off her head? Just as Heishinjo was thinking, she saw the National Master's hair flying in the air. He was mumbling to himself, and the top of the 9th floor altar was burning. Everyone was kneeling on the ground devoutly. Only Heishinjo was staring at the 9th floor altar with blinking eyes. This big-hearted guy was thinking, Pooey. He's playing tricks. There must be a formation inside the altar, which was why it was burning with his so-called incantation. This fellow finally thought of something serious. It was highly likely that he would throw her into the altar and burn her. Fortunately, she had the fire-repelling pearl, so it would not burn her to death. At that time she could make up a lie, such as a warning from the heavens. In any case, these people of the East Phoenix Kingdom were very superstitious. Perhaps she could kick out the National Master and replace him. Just as Heishinjo was thinking of a good thing, she saw the National Master walking towards her. The Grand Tutor said in a cold voice, Miss Yunjo, since you have become the sacrifice, you are the Grand Tutor's disciple. You must be by the Grand Tutor's side from now on. Heishinjo. The so-called sacrifice was actually like this? Not dead. Many of the women kneeling below looked at Heishinjo with eyes full of naked envy, jealousy and hatred. They wished they could replace her. All the women in the East Phone Kingdom dreamed of becoming the Imperial Tutor's disciple. Although they said they were his disciples, they were actually his partners. To be able to become the Imperial Tutor's woman, heavens, just thinking about it made them so happy. The Imperial Tutor's woman was more honorable than any empress or princess. They did not expect that this damn country bumpkin would actually be chosen by the Imperial Tutor. They were really lucky. Princess Shiyu's eyes were filled with jealousy. If it was possible, she would rather be the Imperial Tutor's woman than be the Crown Prince's concubine. Although the Crown Prince was not bad compared to the Imperial Tutor, he was like a bright moon in the sky and a candle on the ground. There was no comparison at all. Concubine Yun Zhengshi gently tugged at Princess Shiyu's sleeve. Only then did Princess Shiyu put away the ferocious look on her face. She was a little scared. Fortunately, the Crown Prince was kneeling in front of her. Otherwise, it would be terrible if he saw her. In the silence, Heishinjo coughed a few times. Imperial Preceptor, I want to ask, what does it mean to be inseparable? As a disciple, do you still need to accompany and sleep? Everyone looked at Heishinjo, especially some of the girls. Their eyes were about to spit fire. Shameless. He actually asked such a question in public. How badly did you want to sleep with the National Master? The National Master's expression was normal as he said indifferently, since we are inseparable, we naturally have to sleep with each other. Yun Chujia's heart was like a dog that was bickering. Fuck? This bullshit state preceptor looked like a human dog. He was already old enough to be her father, yet he still wanted to take advantage of her? Shameless. Yun Chujio violently coughed a few times. State Preceptor, I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't accompany and sleep with you. I haven't come to Kueishui yet. So, do you have any other choice? Everyone was shocked. This Yun Chujio actually wanted to reject the Imperial Preceptor? Didn't she know that becoming the Imperial Preceptor's disciple was the dream of all the women in East Phoenix Country? Didn't she know that as long as she became the imperial preceptor's disciple, she could fly up to the branches and become a phoenix? Had her head been kicked by a demon beast? Oh right, she came from a low-grade continent, so she didn't know what kind of glory it was to become the imperial preceptor's disciple. Haha, she really deserved it. If this country bumpkin knew the truth in the future, he would definitely regret it so much that he would vomit blood. The old imperial concubine was so anxious that she wished she could scold Yun Chujo awake. This silly girl. What was the big deal about Kue Shui not coming? The imperial tutor was very resourceful. It would be fine if he helped you to recuperate. He was really anxious to death. The imperial tutor looked at Yun Chujo meaningfully. There is another option. That is to walk into the altar and sacrifice yourself to the divine phoenix. Yun Chujia's face twitched. Isn't there a third option? No. The kneeling woman revealed a regretful expression. It was over. This country bumpkin would definitely not choose to offer herself as a sacrifice to the divine phoenix. In the end, it would be too easy for her. National Master, what do you mean by offering yourself as a sacrifice to the divine phoenix? After you enter the altar, you will be burned by a raging fire until you turn into ashes. Your body and soul will be offered as a sacrifice to the divine phoenix of our East Phoenix country, the National Master said coldly. What if the divine phoenix doesn't want me to die and doesn't accept me? Do I have to stay in the fire forever? Hei Shinjo blinked her eyes and asked. The people below curled their lips. This Yun Chujo was really shameless. The divine phoenix didn't want her to die. Who did she think she was? The imperial preceptor's tone didn't change much. If you are still alive after 3 days, you can be exempted from your identity as a sacrifice. Yun Chujia's face revealed a look of despair. After a long while she asked dryly, State Preceptor, why did you choose me as a sacrifice? Is it because I'm as beautiful as a flower? The State Preceptor. The women below all wished they could spit on Yun Chujia's face. Shameless. They had never seen such a shameless person. However, they were also very curious. Why did the State Preceptor choose this country bumpkin? Was it really because of her beauty? The National Master was silent for a while, and then said indifferently, because the heavens have shown that the woman who came the latest today is my disciple. Hearing this, Yun Chujo looked at the old consort with resentment. It was all the fault of this white-eyed old lady. Why did she call her here for no reason? The old consort saw Yun Chujia's resentful eyes and was so angry that she was twitching. You stupid girl, becoming the National Master's disciple is a great thing. Moreover, she didn't have to call Hei Shinjo over. It was the imperial tutor himself who suggested that all the dignitaries must be present. That was why she called Hei Shinjo over. Yun Chujo gritted her teeth and stomped her foot. Blushing, she said, Imperial tutor, to tell you the truth, I already have someone in mind. Although we are not married, we have touched everything that we should and shouldn't touch. Therefore, I don't have the face to become your disciple. I choose to sacrifice myself to the divine phoenix. Imperial tutor. Everyone. The old princess almost fainted. It was over. Little Jo would never be able to get married in this lifetime. Hei Shinjo thought to herself, this is called getting it over with once and for all, so as to prevent anyone from having designs on her again. Let's see who would still dare to marry her. Otherwise, when she safely came out of the altar, it would be terrible if this shameless State Preceptor had designs on her again. The National Master said with a stiff face, in that case, you can go up to the altar. Hei Shinjo wiped her tears and walked to the old Royal Highness and the old consort. Grandfather, grandmother, little Jo is unfilial. She is going to sacrifice herself to the divine phoenix, even though she hasn't done her filial duty yet. Just pretend that I'm not your granddaughter. The old Royal Highness frowned and didn't say anything. However, the old consort lowered her voice and said, Little Jo, it seems that the National Master doesn't dislike you. Just be his disciple. Be obedient. Yun Chujo thought to herself, damn it, I despise him. Old ox still wants to eat young grass, bah. She did not know how many girls this fraud had ruined with this method. Sooner or later he would expose his true colors. Although Yun Chujo was cursing in her heart, her face revealed a hint of determination. Grandmother, I am in love with that person. I will not do anything to let him down, so I would rather sacrifice myself to the divine phoenix. The old imperial consort was about to persuade her again. But Zheng Shi said from the side, "Mother, it is the honor of the Yun imperial residence to be able to sacrifice myself to the divine phoenix. Don't say any more." Although the old imperial consort was unhappy, she knew that Zheng Shi was right. If the emperor was unhappy with the Yun imperial residence, it would be bad. "First aunt, since you speak so righteously, then let third sister become the imperial tutor's disciple. Anyway, we are all the Yun family's daughters, so it doesn't matter who goes." "Third sister, are you willing to become the imperial preceptor's disciple?" Yun Chuzhou looked at Princess Shiyu with a smile. Princess Shiyu's face instantly turned red. She was naturally willing, but she wasn't stupid enough to say it out loud, so she said hesitantly, "Ninth sister, this isn't child's play, don't talk nonsense." Yun Chuzhou shrugged her shoulders, turned around and asked the imperial preceptor, "Imperial preceptor, my third sister said that she is willing to replace me. Take her as your disciple." Princess Shiyu almost fainted from anger. When did she say such a thing? Princess Shiyu shook her head repeatedly. "No, I didn't say it. Imperial preceptor, I didn't say it." The imperial preceptor looked at Princess Shiyu indifferently. "What? Princess Shiyu is also unwilling to become my disciple? Could it be that the Yun residence is dissatisfied with me?" Princess Shiyu hated Yun Chuzhou to death. The imperial tutor might not want to accept her as his disciple, but if she said she was willing, she would offend the crown prince. If she said she wasn't willing, the imperial tutor might fly into a rage. It was a dilemma. Princess Shiyu's face was flushed red. She was in a dilemma and didn't know how to answer when the imperial tutor said, "Miss Yunzhou, the time is up. Enter the altar." Yun Chuzhou pouted. She knew that she could not drag it out. She could only hug the old princess consort and then walk to the altar with a slight tremble. The old princess consort's heart was about to be broken by He Xinjia's hug. Although she hated this granddaughter before today, she did not know why. At this moment, seeing her go to her death, her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. She could not help but cry. The old royal highness' brows were tightly knitted. He patted the old consort's hand. He did not feel good, but what could he do? This little ninth girl was as stubborn as her father and mother. She clearly did not need to die, but she would rather choose to die than betray her beloved. He did not know whether he should say that she was stupid or one-track-minded. However, at this moment, the old prince felt that this little ninth girl had some of the pride that the Yun family's younger generation lacked. Unfortunately, she did not have a good life and was about to be destroyed. The old prince did not have the slightest thought of going against the imperial preceptor. In the East Phoenix Kingdom, the imperial preceptor was a god. Even the emperor had to listen to the imperial preceptor's arrangements. If there was no imperial preceptor, the East Phoenix Kingdom would definitely be annexed by the other three kingdoms, and would soon be destroyed. If He Xinjiu knew what the old prince and the others were thinking, she would probably roll on the ground with laughter. These people actually placed their fate on a fraud. It was simply hilarious. Everyone's gaze fell on Yun Chuzhou, who was walking towards the first level of the altar. Her delicate body was slightly trembling and she coughed a few times from time to time. However, her footsteps did not stop at all. The national master said indifferently, "Miss Yunzhou, it's still not too late for you to go back on your words." Yun Chuzhou did not even turn her head. "I, Yun Chuzhou, have never gone back on my words. Moreover, I am a beautiful woman who is loyal to love. I believe that the divine phoenix will take care of me." The corners of everyone's eyes twitched. This guy was really shameless. However, she was going to turn into ashes very soon. She could show off before she died. At this moment, Yun Chuzhou finally reached the first level of the altar. The expected screams didn't come. Everyone guessed that this country bumpkin might have a defensive spiritual artifact or even an immortal artifact, so she was fine for the time being. However, the fire on the altar was not an ordinary fire. She couldn't last long. 15 minutes passed and an hour passed. He Xinjiu was tired from standing, so she sat in the fire. "State preceptor, the fire on the first floor might not be too strong. How about I climb a few more floors?" He Xinjiu waved her white claws and said, "Everyone. Was this country bumpkin crazy? No one had ever been so eager to die. The old royal highness and the old princess were almost beating their chests and stomping their feet. Was this little Joe crazy? The state preceptor was very calm. Suit yourself. Therefore, Heishinjo continued to climb up and directly sat on the 9th level of the altar. This fellow looked at the people below with satisfaction. TSK. This feeling of looking down was really satisfying. Very soon the sky turned dark. Yunchujo was still alive and kicking. Everyone's hearts began to beat a little. Could it be that the divine phoenix really wasn't prepared to accept this country bumpkin? However, most people thought that the country bumpkin had a defensive immortal artifact on her, so she was not burned to death. However, she could not last for 3 days. She would definitely be burned to death. The Emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom, Saint Martial Emperor, looked at Heishinjo in the flames with a complicated expression. He raised his head and looked at the state preceptor. The state preceptor's eyes were deep and he nodded slightly. Emperor Shengwa's expression was both worried and happy. He once again looked at Heishinjo in the flames. The national master did not say anything, so everyone could only wait here for the final result. Someone exclaimed slightly, "That Yunchujo has fallen. Could she have been burned to death?" Everyone raised their heads and looked. Indeed, Heishinjo, who had been sitting and showing off, had fallen into the flames. Could she really be dead? Everyone thought that Yunchujo had already been burned to death, but after waiting for a long time, they still did not see her corpse turn into ashes. What was going on? Finally, someone guessed in disbelief, could she have fallen asleep? Everyone. Fuck. How could it be so frustrating? How was it possible? Not only did this guy not burn to death, but he even fell asleep? Although everyone did not believe it, they could only accept reality when they saw a young girl jumping around the next morning. It seemed that Divine Phoenix really did not want to burn this country bumpkin to death. Yunchujo covered her face with her sleeve and munched on a few meat buns. Then she accidentally burped. Everyone turned to look at Heishinjo. Heishinjo said innocently, "Sigh, I've been hungry for an entire night. Why are you still burping? How strange." Everyone. "Can't you wipe the oil off your mouth before you lie? How unreasonable." They were so hungry that their chests were sticking to their backs. Yet, she was actually able to hold on until she burped. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. After much thought, Heishinjo decided to cancel the words that she had intended to deceive everyone. She did not know much about the East Phoenix Kingdom and the Divine Phoenix now. If the fabricated story was flawed, it might backfire. It was better to be safe than sorry. When the time came, the flames on the altar were immediately extinguished. Heishinjo, who was standing on the 9-story altar, weakly walked down from the altar. The national master did not make things difficult for her. He said coldly, "Miss Yunjo, since the Divine Phoenix did not take you in, your status as an offering can be cancelled. Everyone please disperse." Pa Ndan 0v1. C0M Yunchujo bowed and staggered into the old consort's arms. "Grandmother, I'm not dead. That's great. I can be filial to you and grandfather in the future." The old imperial consort's eyes reddened and she patted her back. "It's good that you're fine. Let's go home." Princess Shiyu clenched her fists tightly under her sleeves. This bitch was really lucky. Not only was she not dead, but she had also gained the old man's favor. It was really detestable. Zheng Shi glanced at her. Princess Shiyu restrained her expression and followed Zheng Shi out of the divine hall. After everyone had left, only the Imperial Preceptor and Saint Martial Emperor were left on the altar. Imperial Preceptor, it seems that the prophecy has come true. It seems that the disaster of the East Phoenix country is about to arrive, Saint Martial Emperor said with a sigh. Imperial Preceptor also sighed slightly. "Your Majesty, there's no need to be so worried. Yunchujo is a variable. Perhaps she can defy the heavens and change her fate, saving the East Phoenix country from fire and water." Saint Martial Emperor frowned. Imperial Preceptor, although the prophecy says so, can a little girl from a low-level continent really save the East Phoenix Kingdom? Imperial Preceptor smiled. Since she has fulfilled the prophecy, then she is the master of the Divine Phoenix. She naturally has the ability to turn the universe around. However, Your Majesty, this is a heavenly secret that cannot be revealed. You should not interfere in the matters of the Cloud Mansion. Since she is the master of the divine phoenix, she will naturally be able to resolve all dangers. Saint Martial Emperor nodded. Although he still felt that it was inconceivable that the master of the divine phoenix was such a useless little girl, since she had not been burned to death by the raging flames for 3 days and 3 nights, it was not certain that she could really turn the tides. Saint Martial Emperor chatted with the Imperial Preceptor for a while more before leaving. The Imperial Preceptor took out a yellowish sheepskin scroll from his storage ring. On it were a few words circled in cinnabar. Voluntary sacrifice, the raging flames will not perish, the master of the divine phoenix, turning the tides. Oh. After Hei Shinjo helped the old princess out of the divine hall, everyone called out their wildebeest and left. Hei Shinjo called out the big rabbit under the surprised gazes of the old princess and the old prince. Then she giggled. My rabbit runs no slower than a wildebeest, and it can jump over obstacles. Grandmother, do you want to try? The old consort shook her head like a rattledrum. She was an old lady riding a rabbit all over the street. Stop joking. Before Hei Shinjo and the others arrived at the Yun mansion, the rumors had already spread. In short, there were only 3 points. First, Yun Chujo had unreasonably refused to be the Grand Tutor's disciple. She was simply out of her mind. Second, Yun Chujo was a shameless person. She actually engaged with a man privately and even did something outrageous. Thirdly, because she was too useless and did not love herself, even the divine phoenix despised her. That was why they did not accept her as a sacrifice. After hearing the rumors from Xihua, Yun Chujo smiled indifferently. It was for the best so that no one would have designs on her. However, what did the national master mean? Could it be that he rang the Muchan bell to find a female disciple to accompany and sleep with? Thinking of this, Hei Shinjo asked Xihua, did the national master ring the Muchan bell for no reason and then find a female disciple to accompany him and sleep with? Xihua looked at Yun Chujo in confusion and asked in disbelief, Miss Jo, why do you think so? Xihua revealed an expression of disappointment. Miss Jo, although many women want to be the national master's disciple, the national master has never agreed to it. This time he was the one who took the initiative to take in a disciple, but you actually rejected it. Sigh. 9th Miss, do you know that all the women in the East Phoenix country want to be the Grand Tutor's disciple? As long as you become the Grand Tutor's disciple, not to mention the princess consort, even the empress would not dare to provoke you. Yun Chujo was stunned. So she had misunderstood the Grand Tutor? So it was not a repeat offender, this was the first time? But no matter what, that old cow of his would not be able to eat this delicate young grass like her. This fellow had a big heart. She felt that since she could not figure it out, then she would not think about it anymore. It was better for her to cling tightly to the old consort and the old royal highness thighs now. Otherwise those 2 little bastards Zhang Shi and Princess Shiyu would definitely harm her. Moreover, only by coaxing the white-eyed old lady to be happy could she find out where her mother had been sent and then think of a way to save her mother. Thus, this fellow either ran into the old princess courtyard or ran towards the old prince's study. When this fellow went to the old prince's study for the first time, he was blocked outside. However, this fellow displayed his fearless and shameless spirit and went outside the old prince's study every morning to howl a few times, Grandfather, little Joe has come to grind ink for you. Grandfather, little Joe has sent you pastries. Grandfather, little Joe is here to give you spirit fruits. After Princess Shiyu heard this, she said with disdain, this country bumpkin thinks that grandfather can be moved with just a few good words? The study is an important place and she, a country bumpkin, wants to go in? Dream on. However, 5 days later, Princess Shiyu received the news that not only did Hei Shinjo enter the old prince's study, but she also obtained the old prince's acquiescence and could enter at any time in the future. Princess Shiyu was so angry that she smashed everything in the room into pieces. After Zhang Shi heard about it, she harshly reprimanded Princess Shiyu. Shiyu, you are someone who wants to be the crown prince's consort. How can you be so impatient? If the crown prince takes an aside consort in the future, wouldn't it be even more unbearable for you? Princess Shiyu's face revealed a vicious expression. If the crown prince takes an aside concubine, None of those bitches can think of anything good. Even if they give birth to a child, I will not let them grow up safely. Zheng Shi glared at her fiercely. You. This kind of words will rot in your stomach. Since you have chosen to be the crown prince's concubine, you must be mentally prepared. Princess Shiyu's face revealed a resentful expression. Can I only endure it? If I had known it would be like this, I would have agreed to the imperial preceptor today. Shut up. Zheng Shi was clearly really angry this time. Her expression was cold and ruthless like never before. Princess Shiyu shrunk her neck in fright. Mother, I was just saying. I was wrong. Zheng Shi's expression eased up a little. Shiyu, regardless of whether you truly like the crown prince, or whether you are pretending, you have already come this far. You must not have any other thoughts. As for the future, there will always be a way. There are plenty of shady methods in the rear residence. Your priority now is to win the crown prince's favor, and try to settle the marriage as soon as possible. Princess Shiyu nodded, then she said viciously, Mother, I really don't like that bitch Yun Chujio. She has already offended the imperial tutor, and the emperor has no intention of protecting her. It's probably father's intention to bring her back. Let's kill her. Zheng Shi recalled some things, her face also became vicious. You're right. The longer the night, the more dangerous it will be. That bitch is getting more and more doted on by those two old geezers. Who knows, one day they might coax them to bring Yishir back. We must send her on her way. I'll have Xihua poison her food and then kill Xihua to silence her. At that time, even if those two old farts knew that I poisoned her and she was already dead, they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. That night, Zheng Shi found an excuse to call Xihua over. If you mix this packet of medicinal powder into her food, you will definitely benefit from it. If you don't do it, then your parents and brother won't be able to live, Zheng Shi said coldly. Xihua's body trembled as she took the packet of medicinal powder from Zheng Shi. She left Zheng Shi's courtyard in a daze. Xihua was in a daze. She did not want to kill Yun Chujio, but Zheng Shi had the power to control the sky. What if she really wanted to kill her parents and younger brother? She knew that after she had drugged Yun Chujio, she would not be able to live. Not to mention that she had already eaten Yun Chujio's poison. Even Zheng Shi would kill her to silence her. No matter what Xihua thought, there was no way she could survive. It did not matter if she died, but she did not want to implicate her family. Then would she poison Miss Zhou to death? Xihua gritted her teeth. Miss Zhou, don't blame me. I have no choice. If you want to blame someone, blame your bad luck. The next day, Xihua went to the kitchen to get lunch. She went to a quiet place and sprinkled the medicine powder into the soup with trembling hands. Then she returned to the courtyard. Yo, today's food smells better than usual. Hey, Shinjo said while looking at the food on the table with a smile. Xihua's heart skipped a beat. She bit her lips and said stiffly, maybe it's because Miss Zhou is hungry. Yun Chujio curled her lips, then she said indifferently, I think I have something to tell you. I'm the easiest person to talk to, but if anyone betrays me, not only will I kill her, but I will also kill her family's dog. Xihua's legs gave way and she almost collapsed to the ground. PNDN0V1. Calm. Although Yun Chujio's expression was indifferent, 11 Hua felt that it was even more frightening than Zheng Shi's cold threat. She finally could not take it anymore and knelt on the ground with a plop. Ninth Miss, please spare my life. Ninth Miss, please spare my life. I was forced by the princess. If I don't do as she says, she will kill my entire family. It doesn't matter if I die, but I can't just watch my parents and younger brother be killed by the princess. Xihua was shocked and quickly knelt to the side. She could not help but feel a little sad. The children of her family were not as good as the orphans she bought. The lives of her parents and family were in the hands of her masters. She had no ability to resist. Yun Chujio glanced at Xihua. I am not your proper master. Compared to your relatives, I am naturally the one who has been abandoned. Get up. Xihua could not believe her ears. Was it over just like that? Under normal circumstances, shouldn't she be handed over to the old princess and take her life? Which dish was poisoned? Yun Chujio asked faintly again. Xihua pointed at the bowl of soup on the table with a trembling finger. Only the soup was poisoned. Yun Chuzhou nodded. Go find Zheng Shi now and say that I suddenly became filial and brought the soup to the old madam. You didn't stop me. Shi Hua looked at Yun Chuzhou in disbelief. Miss Zhou, what are you going to do? Yun Chuzhou glanced at her. If you want to protect you and Zix's family, you have to do as I say. Otherwise, do you think the Zheng family will spare your family if I die? You are too naive. You will get rid of the root of the problem. Not only will you and your family die, but Zix's family will also die. Moreover, the crime is already done. It is you who poisoned me. No matter how bad I am still the miss of the Yun mansion. Naturally, your family will not be able to escape. Shi Hua was stunned at first. Then her eyes widened in horror. The more she thought about it, the more frightened she became. The princess methods were ruthless. She would definitely do as the ninth miss said. So what should she do now? While 11 Hua was stunned, Shi Shui said to her, Sister Shi Hua, now we can only listen to the ninth miss. In any case, we are all going to die. At least we don't have to bear the reputation of poisoning and killing our master. Shi Hua gritted her teeth and said to Yun Chuzhou, Ninth miss, as long as you can save the lives of me and Shi Shui's entire family, my life will belong to you from now on. Shi Shui nodded repeatedly at the side. They had no choice but to believe in this ninth miss in front of them. This ninth miss even took care of Zhang Mama and manager Lu. She should be able to do it this time, right? To be honest, Shi Hua and Shi Shui were really uncertain. The imperial consort, Zheng Shi, could be said to be able to cover the sky with one hand. Even the old imperial consort would not easily go against her. Could the ninth miss do it? Yun Chuzhou slightly raised her eyebrows. What use is it for me to take your life? What I want is your loyalty. This time, because your relatives were coerced, I will give you a chance. If there is a next time, I guarantee that there will not be a single living thing left in your house. Shi Hua and Shi Shui repeatedly agreed. They could clearly feel the murderous intent released by Yun Chuzhou. For some reason, they felt that this ninth miss was even more terrifying than the princess consort. Yun Chuzhou glanced at the two of them. If you follow me, you may not have other abilities, but you must know how to put on an act. If you fail to put on an act today, you and your family will die. Do you understand? Shi Hua and Shi Shui hurriedly nodded in agreement. They had followed He Xinzhou for a period of time, so they had learned a little about acting. Yun Chuzhou stood up and put the bowl of soup into her storage ring. Then she said, All right, I'll take Shi Shui to see grandmother now. Shi Hua, you go and deliver the letter to your master now. Shi Hua nodded and rushed out of the courtyard. Shi Hua did not need to pretend at all because her forehead was covered in sweat. Her panicked look was exactly the same as the current situation. Shi Hua arrived outside Zheng Shi's courtyard. After a maid reported to her, she finally saw Zheng Shi. When Zheng Shi saw Shi Hua's appearance, she was delighted. She reckoned that Yun Chuzhou, that country bumpkin, had been poisoned to death. Otherwise, Shi Hua would not be so terrified. This idiot could be used as a scapegoat. After she was beaten to death, the two old men would not be able to testify against her. Zheng Shi thought of this and said to Nanny Gao, who had just been promoted, Shi Hua poisoned the ninth miss. Kill her with a cane. Shi Hua's heart sank. The ninth miss was right. Zheng Shi did not intend to let her off. At this moment, Shi Hua's heart was full of hatred for Zheng Shi. Thinking of Yun Chuzhou's acting, she suppressed the hatred in her heart and said with a trembling voice, Princess, please spare my life. Princess, please spare my life. Ninth miss is not dead. Zheng Shi was stunned at first. Then she angrily smashed the teacup on the table onto 11 Hua. Since she is not dead, why did you come here? Princess, this servant spilled the medicine powder in the soup. But ninth miss must be crazy. She insisted that the soup smelled good today and wanted to give it to the old princess. This servant didn't stop her, so I quickly came to report to you, Shi Hua said with a trembling voice. Zheng Shi suddenly stood up. What did you say? That bitch planted the poisonous soup and prepared to give it to the old princess? Yes. Princess, I couldn't stop her no matter how hard I tried. Moreover, she put the soup into her storage ring. Even if I wanted to knock over the soup bowl, I couldn't do anything. Please think of something, Xihua said while kowtowing. Zheng Shi was so angry that she kicked Xihua. You idiot. Nanny's son came forward and said, Princess, there will be plenty of opportunities to deal with this bitch in the future. The most important thing now is to destroy the soup bowl. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Zheng Shi nodded. That lowly son was dead. She could cover up the sky and cover up the sea with one hand. However, if the old princess was poisoned to death, both the old Royal Highness and Emperor Shenggu would definitely investigate to the end. At that time it would be over. Pa and Dan 0v1. C0M Zheng Shi thought of this and hurriedly brought Nanny's son to the old princess residence. No matter what, she could not let the old princess drink the bowl of poisoned soup with added ingredients. Seeing that Zheng Shi and Granny's son had left, Xihua staggered to her feet and left Zheng Shi's courtyard. She had placed all her bets on Yun Chuzhou, so all she could do now was to wait. Zheng Shi almost trotted to the old princess courtyard. She did not even wait for the maid at the door to inform her before she barged in. The old princess was just about to have lunch when she saw Zheng Shi barging in a panic. She could not help but frown. Boss, do you have something urgent? Zheng Shi did not answer the old consort. She hurriedly put the bowl of bamboo sun chicken soup in the middle of the table into her storage ring and said, Mother, there's something wrong with the bamboo sun used to make soup in the kitchen today. I was afraid that you wouldn't feel well after drinking it, so I rushed over. You haven't drunk it yet, have you? This little Jiu is too much. Why did she give you soup out of the blue? She almost got into trouble. The old princess looked at Zheng Shi in shock. This soup is from the kitchen. What does it have to do with little Nine? Zheng Shi was stunned. Didn't little Nine send this soup to you? The old princess was confused and looked at Zheng Shi suspiciously. Little Nine has never been here before. How did you know that little Nine was going to send me soup? Zheng Shi was shocked. That bitch didn't come to deliver the soup? Could it be that Xihua lied to her? No, that bitch didn't have the guts to lie to her. What was going on? At this moment, a clear voice came from outside the courtyard. Grandmother, I've brought you soup. Today's soup is especially delicious. Along with the voice, He Xinjiu hopped in. Zheng Shi's heart skipped a beat. She had rushed over as soon as she heard the news. Of course she was faster than this bitch. She had miscalculated. But it was also good. She could destroy the soup she had brought out just in case there was any evidence left behind. After He Xinjiu entered, she looked at the food on the table and clapped her hands. Grandmother, what a coincidence. You just happen to not have any soup here, so I brought it here for you. Isn't this called telepathy? The old princess spat at her. You little monkey, you're the best at talking. I used to have a bowl of bamboo sun chicken soup here. But your aunt said that there was something wrong with the bamboo sun chicken soup, so she didn't let me drink it. What kind of soup did you bring? If it's also bamboo sun chicken soup, then throw it away. Yun Chuzhou smiled smugly. Grandma, it just so happens that my soup is not bamboo sun chicken soup, but winter melon pork ribs soup. So it's definitely not a problem. Let's drink my bowl. As Yun Chuzhou spoke, she took out a bowl of winter melon spare rib soup from her storage ring. Then she smiled and asked Zheng Shi, Aunt, there's something wrong with Jusun chicken soup. This winter melon spare rib soup shouldn't be a problem, right? Do you want to sit down and drink some with me? The soup today smells exceptionally fresh. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come all the way here to deliver it to grandmother. Zheng Shi's head buzzed. She had been too anxious just now and did not ask Xihua what kind of soup she had given to this bastard at noon. It seemed that this bowl of winter melon spare rib soup must be poisonous and had to be knocked over. Therefore, Zheng Shi laughed dryly and said, It just so happens that I haven't eaten yet. Mother won't mind adding a pair of chopsticks, right? The old imperial consort felt that Zheng Shi was strange today. Normally, she would not even agree to stay to eat, but today she actually took the initiative to stay to eat. Although the old princess was suspicious, she still asked the maid to add a set of bowls and chopsticks. As for He Xinjiu, she had always been self-reliant. She had already taken out a set of bowls and chopsticks from her storage ring, and was eagerly waiting for the order to start eating. The old princess couldn't help but laugh. She tapped her forehead with her hand and said, Since you're hungry, let's start eating. Hei Shinjo bared her little white teeth. She took a spoon and scooped a small bowl of soup and placed it in front of the old princess. Then she scooped another bowl for Zhengshi. Finally, she scooped a bowl for herself and said crisply, "Drink the soup before eating. It's good for your health. Grandmother, first aunt, try this soup. It must be very delicious." Zhengshi was so anxious that her head was full of sweat. In a moment of desperation, she tilted her body and swept her arm unintentionally, causing the bowl of soup between herself and the old princess consort to spill. She thought to herself, that bastard should just drink it, as long as the old princess consort was not poisoned. "Aunt, are you all right? It's such a pity for those 2 bowls of soup. But it's all right, there's still more than half a bowl left. It'll help you and grandmother get another bowl." Hei Shinjo stood up and began to fill the bowl with soup with a smile. Zhengshi wished she could put the bowl of soup in the middle of the table into her storage ring, but she had no excuse. If she forcefully put it away, it would inevitably arouse the suspicion of old farts. While Zhengshi was deep in thought, Hei Shinjo had already filled 2 more bowls of soup and placed them in front of Zhengshi and the old princess. Zhengshi was about to repeat the same trick when she heard Hei Shinjo say with a smile, "First aunt, you have to sit still this time and don't fall again. Otherwise, I'll think that you deliberately don't want grandmother to drink the soup that I sent." Zhengshi gnashed her teeth in hatred and said with a stiff face, "Little Jiu, what are you talking about? I just didn't sit still just now." Hei Shinjo smiled indifferently. Then she stirred her bowl of soup with a spoon and took a deep breath. "This soup smells so good." The old princess said with a smile, "Is it that good? Let me try it." The old princess scooped a spoonful of soup with a spoon and was ready to put it into her mouth. Zhengshi had no choice but to lean to the side again. Not only did she knock off the spoon in the old princess' hand, but she also knocked the 2 bowls of soup onto the ground. Granny Sun quickly went forward and helped Zhengshi up. Hei Shinjo said casually, "First aunt, didn't I tell you to be careful just now? Why did you fall again? Is there something wrong with your body? You'd better go back and see the imperial physician." The old princess also echoed, "Yes, sir. I see that you don't look well today. It's better to go back and see the imperial physician quickly." Zhengshi gritted her teeth and said with a stiff face, "Mother, I think this pork ribs and winter melon soup is not bad. I brought it back to drink." Zhengshi put the bowl of soup into her storage ring as she spoke. She was too ashamed to look at the old princess' expression and hurriedly walked out. Before Zhengshi walked out, she heard Hei Xinjia's smiling voice. "Grandmother, I told you that I was smart. I was afraid that the soup was too good to drink, so when I came here I went to the big kitchen. I received the bowl from the back of the big kitchen. I also have a bowl of Xihua flower collar here. Since that bowl was taken away by first aunt, let's drink this bowl." Zhengshi's head was buzzing. No wonder this bitch came later than her. It turned out that she went to the big kitchen and got another bowl of soup. Didn't that mean that the bowl on the table was poisonous? Zhengshi hurriedly turned around and saw the old princess picking up the spoon and was about to put a spoonful of soup into her mouth. She was so scared that she didn't care and directly slapped the old princess' wrist. The old consort dodged slightly. Although she was fine, the spoon in her hand was swept to the ground by the wind. The old consort immediately flew into a rage. "Zhengshi, what are you going to do? Are you going to kill me?" Zhengshi's mind was blank now. Suddenly, a plan came to her mind, and she knelt down on the ground with a plop. "Mother, there's poison in that soup." The old princess had already guessed it. She asked with a gloomy face, "What do you mean? Is little Jiu going to poison me to death?" Hei Shinjo looked innocent and aggrieved. "What? And you can't say that. Why would I poison grandmother to death?" Pian01 Zhengshi gritted her teeth. "Mother, little Jiu didn't poison her. It was her maid Xihua. Xihua, that lowly servant, was ordered by someone to poison little Jiu. Coincidentally, my maid Hong Yuan saw her poisoning and came to report to me. I also heard that little Nine gave you the soup, so I rushed over to stop her." The old princess slammed the table. "This is outrageous. If that's the case, why didn't you say it out loud? Why did you stop us from drinking the soup in secret? Pa en dan 0v1. C0m Zheng Shi revealed a worried expression. Mother, little Jiu has just returned. I was afraid of scaring her. So I planned to capture Xihua in secret and interrogate her, so as to avoid alerting the snake and letting the mastermind get away scot-free. Yun Chujiu revealed an incredulous expression. Aunt, is what you said true? Is this bowl of soup really poisonous? Or was it used by Xihua? Zheng Shi nodded. This is all Aunt's fault. Xihua was sent by Aunt to you. I didn't expect that lowly servant to be so audacious as to poison you. Yun Chujiu revealed an injured expression and kept shaking her head. I don't believe it. Xihua usually does her best for me. How could she poison me? Someone must have wronged her. Little Jiu, first aunt's maid Hong Yuan, saw it with her own eyes. If you don't believe it, first aunt will get someone to call Hong Yuan and Xihua over. We will know after the trial. Zheng Shi despised her in her heart. This bitch was really stupid. She actually believed that bitch Xihua at this point in time. Yun Chujiu sat on the chair, looking as if she had suffered a great blow. Then she said, all right, then well, do as Aunt said and call them all over. I want to ask Xihua why she wanted to harm me when I've treated her so well. The old imperial consort nodded at Zheng Shi, indicating that they should do as Yun Chujiu said. The old imperial consort patted He Xinjia's hand. Little Jiu Ai, you're not young anymore. There are some matters in the rear residence that you should learn from. This time it's just a lesson to remember. The old imperial consort felt a little bitter in her heart. Little Jiu's heart was pure and kind. She had probably never seen such shady and private matters in the rear residence. It was inevitable that she could not accept it for the time being. However, who was the one who instructed Xihua? Third, fourth, or fifth? The old imperial consort did not suspect that it was Zheng Shi. After all, Zheng Shi took the initiative to say that there was poison in the soup. This was also where Zheng Shi was proud of herself. When the time came, she would hint 11 Hua to bite the he Shi of the third wife. Although she did not poison Yun Chujiu this time, she would at least cause trouble for the he Shi. This would prevent that bitch from thinking that her family was the Prince of Ping's residence and not putting her in her eyes. Very soon Xihua and Hong Yuan were brought over. Yun Chujiu's voice trembled as she said, Xihua, I have always been kind to you. Why did you poison the soup? Who exactly instructed you? Xihua looked confused and innocent, and then she said with a sobbing tone, Ninth Miss, you, how could I poison you? This is a great injustice. Zheng Shi snorted, Hong Yuan, tell me what happened. The maid called Hong Yuan said angrily, Ninth Miss, I saw it with my own eyes. This afternoon, Xihua was behind a rockery and sprinkled the medicinal powder into the soup. Really? You really saw it with your own eyes? How did you happen to see her poisoning? Yun Chujiu clearly did not believe that Xihua would poison her. Hong Yuan said calmly, Ninth Miss, I went to the princess consort's lunch in the afternoon, so I happened to see the scene of Xihua poisoning her. Yun Chujiu obviously believed Hong Yuan's words this time. She sat on the chair dejectedly and threw herself into the old princess consort's arms, crying, Grandmother, I'm so sad. I didn't expect that Xihua would poison me when I was so good to her. The old imperial consort patted Yun Chujiu's back and then shouted sternly, Lowly servant, tell me, who exactly instructed you to poison little Jiu to death? Xihua kept kowtowing and said in grief and indignation, Old imperial consort, Ninth young miss, this servant really did not poison you. Even if this servant was given 100 guts, this servant would not dare to poison Ninth young miss. Zheng Shi coldly snorted from the side. You might not dare to harm little Jiu, but the master behind you would dare. Tell me, who was the one who instructed you? Zheng Shi's back faced the old consort as she inconspicuously stretched out 3 fingers. She felt that Xihua would definitely understand her intentions. Xihua's heart was filled with monstrous hatred. If she were to climb up and bite the he Shi would not be able to do anything to the Zheng Shi. However, her family would definitely be killed by the he Shi to vent their anger. The Zheng Shi was truly too vicious. Xihua suppressed the hatred in her heart and could not help but kowtow to defend herself. Old princess consort, Ninth Miss, this servant was really wronged. This servant really did not poison you. Yun Chujia's eyes lit up. Grandmother, I don't think Xihua is lying. Perhaps she really did not poison you. Maybe that Hong Yuan was mistaken. Hong Yuan immediately said, "Ninth miss, it can't be wrong. I saw her sprinkle the medicinal powder into the soup with my own eyes." Xihua glared at Hong Yuan angrily. "Since you said you saw me sprinkle the medicinal powder in the soup with your own eyes, then what soup did I get this afternoon?" Hong Yuan looked at Xihua with disdain. "I saw it clearly. It was a bowl of winter melon rib soup." "Are you sure that I got the winter melon rib soup?" "Of course I'm sure. I saw it with my own eyes. How could I be wrong?" Hong Yuan said with certainty. Granny-san had already told her that it was winter melon rib soup, so it was naturally not wrong. Xihua sneered, then she looked at Yun Chujio. "Miss Zhou, you heard everything, right? This Hong Yuan is simply full of nonsense. I had given you bamboo sun chicken soup in the afternoon, but she said that I had winter melon pork ribs soup. She is clearly framing me." Zheng Shi almost laughed out loud. Could it be that Xihua was trying to act more convincing? So she said that on purpose? Seeing that she was putting in so much effort, she could be rewarded with a good coffin. The old consort was about to speak when Yun Chujio said with sparkling eyes, "Huh? I knew Xihua wouldn't betray me. Aunt, it seems like there's something wrong with that red couple of yours." Zheng Shi was dumbfounded. "Little Zhou, are you confused? Didn't Xihua bring you winter melon rib soup?" The old princess looked at Yun Chujio in confusion. Little Zhou couldn't be spouting nonsense to absolve 11 Hua of her crime, right? Although being kind was a good thing, being too kind was stupid. Erase the thing. Xihua did bring me a bowl of bamboo sun chicken soup for lunch. When I came here, I thought the soup was really delicious, so I went to the big kitchen and thought of bringing a few more bowls for dinner. I didn't expect that when I arrived at the kitchen, I found that the winter melon spare rib soup smelled even better, so I brought 2 more bowls. When I arrived here, I heard from my aunt that there was something wrong with the bamboo sun chicken soup. So I brought out the winter melon spare rib soup. Things were a little complicated. Anyway, Xihua brought back the bamboo sun chicken soup for me at noon. If you don't believe me, I'll show it to you. Hei Xinzhou took out a bowl of bamboo sun chicken soup from her storage ring and drank a few mouthfuls. "Is it okay to take a look? I told you Xihua wouldn't harm me. Auntie, that Hong Yuan was obviously ordered by someone to frame Xihua. You'd better interrogate her properly." The old princess looked at Hei Xinzhou reproachfully. She had drunk the bowl of soup without confirming whether it was poisonous or not. What if it was poisonous? This child was too honest. Zheng Shi's face alternated between green and white. Her mind was in a mess now. Why did she end up like this after going back and forth? Zheng Shi could not figure it out for a moment, so she simply said, "Mother, it seems that this matter is very complicated. I'll bring Hong Yuan back and interrogate her severely. Then I'll report the results to you." The old imperial consort nodded. "Interrogate this bitch properly. She won't frame Xihua for no reason. There must be something wrong inside." Zheng Shi nodded and left with Hong Yuan and the others. Yun Chujio stretched her neck and saw Zheng Shi leave. She immediately knelt on the ground. The old imperial consort was shocked and thought that she was poisoned. "Little Zhou, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with that bowl of soup?" "Pie Indian over one, grandmother. I'm sorry, I lied to you. Actually, Xihua didn't bring me this soup in the afternoon. She was the one who brought me this bowl of beef and yam soup in the afternoon, and it's highly poisonous." Yun Chujio took out a bowl of beef and yam soup and placed it on the ground. The old princess was a little confused. What's going on?" "Grandmother, the master behind Xihua is eldest aunt. Eldest aunt used Xihua's parents and younger brother to force her to poison me, trying to poison me to death. However, Xihua was very righteous and told me what happened. I was really scared at that time. I wanted to tell you the truth directly, but I was afraid that you wouldn't believe me. Instead, Big Aunt accused me of framing her. She is so powerful. I definitely can't win against her. I will definitely suffer a loss. That's why I use such a roundabout way to let you see her true colors. If she wasn't the mastermind behind the scenes, how would she know that I came to deliver soup to you? If she was really so kind, why would her maid frame Xihua? Also, what did she say about being afraid of scaring me? I was almost burned to death earlier. Could it be that I'm afraid of these little tricks? She's just trying to cover up the truth. G-Mama sniffed the bowl of beef and yam soup and took out a silver needle to try it out. Then she said, Master, there's a soul-severing powder in here. Just a little bit of it will kill you. The old consort slammed the table angrily. She gnashed her teeth in hatred. Then she was silent for a long time and sighed. Little ninth girl, get up. What do you want grandmother to do? Grandmother, I know that Zhengshi is in the limelight now. You probably can't do anything about it. That's why I didn't expose her face to face. This way both she and you will have a way out. As for who she pushes out as a scapegoat, that's none of our business. Grandmother, I don't have any other requests. You just have to think of a way to protect Xihua and Xishui's family. Otherwise, they will be threatened again. They are also raised by their parents. I really can't bear it. When Yun Chujo said this, her eyes were filled with tears. She was obviously very wronged, but she didn't cry or make a scene. The old imperial consort's heart was about to break. She thought that Yun Chujo would definitely let her make the decision and settle the score with Zhengshi. At the very least, she had to seek justice. She didn't expect that at this time she would still think of her old bones. What a filial child. The old princess asked G-Mama to help Yun Chujo up and said, Little Joe, don't worry. I will protect the families of these two handmaidens. Zhengshi would not dare to touch them. It's just that you have been wronged. Grandmother, I have not been wronged. I know that everyone has things that they cannot do anything about. Moreover, after this matter, first aunt should be able to calm down for a period of time. After Yun Chujo finished speaking, she timidly glanced at the old princess consort. It seemed like she wanted to say something, but she didn't say anything. The old princess naturally saw that Yun Chujo still had something to say, so she asked, Little Joe, do you still have something to say? Yun Chujo bit her lips and put on a very troubled expression. Grandmother, I don't dare to say it. I'm afraid you'll be angry. Sigh, you child, just say it. I won't blame you. Then I will really say it. You really won't be angry? Hey, Shinjo said timidly. I won't be angry, just say it. The old consort saw Yun Chujo trembling as if she was treading on thin ice, and her heart ached even more. I want to go and see her. Since Aunt has poisoned me, I'm worried that Aunt will also poison her. So I want to go and see her. Grandmother, don't be angry. I really only went to see if she was safe and sound. After saying that, Yun Chujo nervously tugged at the corner of her clothes, not even daring to raise her head. The old imperial consort's expression was a little gloomy. After a long while, she said, Little Joe, grandmother will tell you the truth. As long as you don't do anything outrageous, you will always be the daughter of the Yun family. But the Yi family, she has made a big mistake. She will never be able to enter the Yun family again. Grandmother, I know. I don't want her to return to the Yun mansion. I just want to see if she is safe. After all, she gave birth to me. Moreover, she had been looking for me for several years. If I don't see her safe and sound with my own eyes, I will always feel empty in my heart. Yun Chujo deliberately said, she and not my mother. It was to prove to the old princess that she intended to draw a clear line between her and Yilan. The old consort was silent for a long time, then she said, all right, I'll get G-Mama to accompany you. G-Mama is proficient in medicine. She can help you see if he is poisoned. After you see her, come back immediately. Don't delay, understand? Yun Chujo threw herself into the old consort's arms and cried bitterly, Grandmother, my good grandmother, it's all thanks to you. Otherwise, little Joe really doesn't know how to live. Sob Sabi, the old consort's eyes were also red from Hei Xinjia's crying. She patted her back and said, all right. I'll look for an opportunity to strike Zhengshi. She won't dare to cause any more trouble for the time being. Yun Chujo acted coquettishly for a while more before she left the old consort's courtyard with Xihua and Xishui. After Yun Chujo returned to the courtyard, she hummed a little tune. It was obvious that she was in a good mood. The reason why she took such a roundabout way to expose Zhengshi was to make the old imperial consort feel guilty. That was why she dared to bring up the idea of meeting Yilan. As long as she met her mother, She did not care about any orders. She would definitely find an opportunity to stay with her mother for a few more days. Yoon Chujo did not plan to bring her mother back. This imperial residence of King Yoon could be said to be a dragon's den and a tiger's den. It was better to wait for her to get rid of all the eyesores before bringing her mother back. By the way, Miss Jo, when we were in the old consort's house, Zhang Shi hinted that I framed third Madam He Shi for ordering me to poison you. Zhang Shi is too vicious. Shi Hua became angrier as she spoke. She wished she could strangle Zhang Shi to death. He Xinzhou rolled her eyes and nodded approvingly at Shi Hua. Not bad, you've made up for it. If there's anything in the future, you two have to tell me every detail, understand? Shi Hua and Shi Shui nodded repeatedly. After this incident, they had already regarded Yoon Chujo as their real master. Come, let's go to my third aunt's place and bring her a bowl of soup, He Xinzhou said with a smile. Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time. Shi Hua and Shi Shui were confused. Sending soup to third Madam? What did she mean? Yoon Chujo asked Shi Shui to stay behind to look after the courtyard. She brought Shi Hua out of the courtyard. As the old prince was still around, the Yoon family did not split up. They all lived in King Yoon's mansion. However, each room was separated by a corner gate. There were people guarding each room to prevent some things from being unclear. Yoon Chujo had just arrived at the corner door of the third room when a servant went to report to third Madam He Shi. He Shi frowned. What was this little Jo doing here? Although she was puzzled since she was already here, she naturally could not refuse the door. She got someone to invite Yoon Chujo in. P&D N0V1. Calm after He Xinzhou bowed obediently, she said a few polite words and changed the topic. Third aunt, I'm here to deliver soup for you. He sure was confused. Bring soup? What soup? Yoon Chujo brought out a bowl of chicken soup with winter melon ribs. She smiled and said, Third aunt, I originally wanted to bring you a bowl of chicken soup with bamboo sun, but first aunt said that there was something wrong with the bamboo sun inside, so I had no choice but to bring this bowl to you. He sure subconsciously asked, What's wrong with the bamboo sun? Yoon Chujo suddenly covered her mouth, as if she felt that she had said too much. She said in a fluster, No, there's no problem. I was just spouting nonsense. He sure naturally would not believe her. Her face darkened slightly. Little Jo, you know how third aunt usually treats you. Is it okay for you to lie to third aunt like this? A conflicted expression appeared on Yoon Chujia's face. She looked around. He sure understood and ordered the servants to leave, leaving behind only a trustworthy nanny Jo. Third aunt sigh. Actually, I'm also quite conflicted in my heart. I don't know if I should tell you, but if I don't, I still feel that I've let you down. However, if I tell you, please don't say that I told you. Yoon Chujo tugged at the corner of her clothes and said uneasily. When he sure saw this, she became even more curious. Little Jo, just say it. Third aunt will definitely not betray you. Third aunt, the matter is like this. I felt that the soup today was not bad, so I brought a bowl for grandmother. I didn't expect that first aunt would rush over in a hurry and spill the soup I brought over. In the end, she even said that my maid Shi Hua had poisoned it. This originally had nothing to do with you, third aunt, but when first aunt interrogated Shi Hua about the mastermind behind the curtain, she pointed 3 fingers at Shi Hua with her back facing us. Although later on it was proven that all of this was framed by eldest aunt's maid, Hong Yuan, I still feel that it's necessary to come and inform third aunt. After all, Hong Yuan has yet to reveal the mastermind behind the curtain of flowers. He sure was not a fool. She naturally understood Zhang Shi's intention of gestured 3 fingers. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Zhang Shi, this bitch. It was one thing for her to put on the airs of a princess in front of her, but she actually wanted to frame her. She really deserved to die. Yoon Chujo glanced at the hatred on the He Shi's face and felt quite pleased in her heart. The enemy of an enemy was a friend. She heard that Shi Hua and the He Shi's combat strength could not be underestimated. It would be best if she could add some trouble to Zhang Shi. He Shi calmed her emotions and then said, Little Jo, third aunt, thanks for your reminder. Third aunt owes you a favor this time. If you need my help in the future, just let me know. He Shi naturally said this out of courtesy. Never in her wildest dreams would she have thought that Hei Shinjo would show her white teeth. Third aunt. I really do have something to ask for your help. Why do you think it's such a coincidence? He sure. Could she take back what she had just said? This was the first time she had seen such a smooth-sailing person. Although he sure's heart was filled with anger, she could only ask, what is it that you need my help with? Third aunt, grandmother asked G Mama to bring me to see my mother tomorrow. Although I don't know where my mother is being held, I estimate that she is still some distance away from N City. To be honest, I'm not too confident on this journey. I know that third aunt is very resourceful. Can you secretly send a team to protect me? Don't worry, I won't use it for nothing. I'll pay as much as I can. As you know, I'm all alone. I don't have anyone I can trust. Only third aunt can help me. Hei Shinjo said pitifully. He sure was shocked and asked in disbelief, Mother allowed you to see ye sure? Yes, it wasn't easy for me to get this opportunity, so I don't want anything to go wrong. Third aunt, please help me. I've never seen my mother before, I woo. As Hei Shinjo spoke, she started to cry. She cried so much that she was heartbroken. As she cried, she pondered. He sure didn't address Yi Lan as second sister-in-law, but Yi Clan. It seemed that her mother's days in the Cloud King Manor back then were definitely not that good. He sure was somewhat dumbfounded by Hei Xinjia's crying. It was not that her heart ached, but she was somewhat caught off guard. Little Joe, don't cry yet. It's not that this matter can't be resolved. However, because your mother was locked up in a special place, the people I sent can only escort you for a distance. Yun Chujo immediately stopped crying. Her eyes lit up. A distance is fine too. Thank you, third aunt. It's not that I want to say this, but first aunt's petty temperament really can't compare to third aunt's grace and nobility. It would be great if third aunt were consort Yun. He sure jokingly scolded, don't spout nonsense. I'll arrange some manpower for you right now. You can rest assured. Thank you, third aunt. What do you think of this fee? What fee? You've helped third aunt. It's only right for third aunt to help you once. He sure smiled and said. Yun Chujo was very shrewd. She instantly understood what he sure was implying. That was to repay her favor once and for all. In the future, don't come and be disliked by others. This fellow smiled and said, third aunt, our courtyard is close to each other. In the future, I will often come and pay my respects to you. Hei Shinjo didn't wait for he sure's reply after she finished speaking and skipped away. He sure looked at Yun Chujia's back and then at the bowl of soup on the table. She was stunned for a moment before she said to Nanny Zhou behind her, go and find out what's going on. 2 hours later, Nanny Zhou told he sure what she found out. Basically, it was the same as what Yun Chujo said. He sure was so angry that she threw a teacup. Zheng Sure was really going too far. Let's wait and see. On one side, he sure was so angry that she stomped her feet. On the other side, Hei Xinjia's heart was filled with joy. She was very excited to see her mother. The next day, although Hei Shinjo woke up early, she was not eager to see the old consort. This guy knew that the old consort did not like Yi Lan. If she acted too eager, it was likely that the matter would be ruined. This guy waited with his fingers. Finally, at midnight, Ji Mama came. Yun Chujo remembered that the old consort did not allow her to bring Shi Hua and Shi Shui to see Yi Lan, so she instructed Shi Hua Shi Shui, if Zheng Sure asks you to go to her place, don't go. If she tries to force you, go find my grandmother. My grandmother will protect you, understand? But don't worry, Zheng Sure is not that stupid. She won't touch you. At least for the time being, she won't touch you. Shi Hua and Shi Shui nodded repeatedly. As long as their family members were fine, they would have nothing to worry about. After Yun Chujo gave her instructions, she followed Ji Mama out of the Yun mansion. Yun Chujo shot a glance at Ji Mama, who had brought 20 guards with her. Ji Mama was thinking to herself, maybe more than half of these people are Zheng Shure's people. If they were really in danger, they would definitely run faster than me. Fortunately, I have a backup plan. After the group left in city, Ji Mama summoned her flying spirit tool, and the group boarded the flying spirit tool and set off. Yun Chujo looked at the flying spirit tool. It seemed to be used by the old princess, and it was quite comfortable. Gee mama, how much does such a flying spirit tool cost? Yun Chujo blinked her eyes and asked curiously. 50 million upper-grade spirit stones, Gee mama said with a smile. 50 million? That's not too expensive. I'll get a few of them some other day. Hey Shinjo said while stroking her chin. The corner of Gee mama's eyes twitched. Not too expensive. You only have 10 million upper-grade spirit stones, how many of them can you buy? You're really shameless. Yun Chujo caught a glimpse of Gee mama's expression, and then remembered that her poor girl character. She quickly added, this is my goal. Maybe you'll be rich in the future. Gee mama, now that we have set off, you can tell me where my mother is locked up, right? Gee mama paused for a moment and then said, Madam Yi is locked up in the nunnery of the Yun family. But don't worry, Miss Jo. You won't have to worry about food and clothing there. Madam Yi is fine. Yun Chujia's small face suddenly darkened. No matter how deep her thoughts were, she couldn't hide the anger in her heart when she heard that her mother was locked up in the nunnery. This was too much. What mistake did her mother make to lock her mother up in the nunnery of the Yun family? What nunnery? To put it bluntly, wasn't it just a nunnery? How could she force her mother to become a monk out of nowhere? She was so shameless. Seeing Yun Chujia's gloomy face, Gee mama was shocked. Miss Jo's spiritual power was low, but her imposing manner at the moment made people feel a little scared. Yun Chujo felt like her heart was turning upside down. She suppressed the anger in her heart. No matter what, it was a serious matter to see her mother first. She was not afraid to settle the score. Let's wait and see. Yun Chujo eased her expression and asked, Gee mama, why was my mother locked in the nunnery? Gee mama's expression changed. Ninth miss, the old princess has ordered that no one is allowed to discuss this matter. You'd better not ask. Yun Chujo knew that if Gee mama did not want to tell, she would not tell no matter how much she asked. Anyway, she would be able to see Yi very soon. When the time came, she could just ask her. A day later, the flying spirit tool landed on the ground. Not far away was a dense forest that stretched as far as the eye could see. Miss Jo, the area ahead belongs to the floating cloud mountain. There's no way for the flying spirit tool to enter. We can only walk there. Yun Chujo nodded and walked into the dense forest under the escort of everyone. After walking for another half a day, Yun Chujo discovered that there was no more road ahead. Just as she was feeling puzzled, she saw Gee mama take out a jade token. After she formed a seal, a barrier-like entrance appeared in front of her. P&D N0V1. Calm Yun Chujo thought to herself. No wonder he sure said that her people could only escort her for a short distance. It turned out that it was because there was a barrier in front of them. It was just a nunnery. Was there a need to go through so much trouble? Yun Chujo followed Gee mama into the barrier. Her vision suddenly became clear. She discovered that they were standing at the foot of a mountain. The things in front of them were next to each other. Were they graves? While Yun Chujo was in a daze, Gee mama and the others knelt on the ground. Yun Chujo was dragged by Gee mama and knelt on the ground as well. Yun Chujo was baffled. What was wrong with her? Miss Jo, those in front are the graves of the ancestors of the Yun family. Hurry up and kneel, Gee mama said with a serious expression. Yun Chujo suddenly realized that it was no wonder that a formation had been set up mysteriously. So this was the ancestral grave of the Yun family? This guy followed her and bowed a few times. To be honest, this guy didn't really feel a sense of belonging to the Yun family, so he had no feelings for the ancestors of the Yun family. Not far from the ancestral grave of the Yun family, there was a tall mountain peak that reached into the clouds. According to Gee mama, that was the floating cloud mountain, and the Yun family nunnery was located halfway up the mountain. As soon as they arrived at the gate of the nunnery along the stone steps, they heard an angry man shout from the courtyard, "Are all of you dead? How did Yilan escape?" Yun Chujo craned her neck to take a look. Huh, wasn't this the Duke of Yun Fengjian? Why was he here? Had her mother escaped? Gee mama's expression changed when she saw the Duke of Yun. Just as she was about to say something, the Duke of Yun turned his head and saw Yun Chujo and the others. King Yun stared at Yun Chujo with a malicious gaze and then said coldly, "Who told you to come here? Is this where you should be? The corner of Yoon Chujia's mouth curled up. Eldest uncle, I should be asking you this. This is the Yoon family's nunnery. Why is eldest uncle here? Even if it's to offer sacrifices to the ancestors, you can't come here, right? Seeing King Yoon's gloomy expression, Ji Mama hurriedly said, King, the old princess sent a servant to accompany Miss Jo to visit Madame Yi. Hearing that, King Yoon's face softened a little and he said gloomily, Yi Lan escaped, and it is said that he left with a wild man. Such an unscrupulous and shameless slut really deserves to be killed. Yoon Chujia's face suddenly turned cold. First uncle, before the matter is clarified, please mind your words. There is not only a formation here but also so many people. How did the so-called wild man get in? Don't tell me that someone is trying to frame my mother, lock her up or kill her, and then charge her with a crime? Hearing Yoon Chujia's words, Duke Yoon's expression became even uglier. He turned around to look at the people in the Yoon family's nunnery hall. Tell me what is going on. If anyone is lying, I will kill her. Many nuns were kneeling on the ground. One of the nuns with triangular eyes said, Prince, even if you lend us 10,000 guts, we wouldn't dare to lie to you. San Jiaoyan said, that bitch Yi Lan has been sick recently. She didn't do the work assigned to her and even threatened us with suicide. We could only let her slack off. However, unexpectedly last night, a wild man came out of nowhere and rushed out with that bitch in his arms. We had no way to stop him. Before Duke Yoon could say anything, Yoon Chujia jumped over and kicked the nun with San Jiaoyan. Fuck you. You're the bitch. You're the one with the wild man. Yoon Chujia was filled with anger. She could tell from the nun's words that Yi Lan had been bullied by these people many times. She was furious. Yoon Chujia grabbed the neck of the triangular-eyed nun. Tell me the truth. Where is my mother? If you dare to lie, I will strangle you to death. San Jiaoyan's voice was filled with anger. San Jiaoyan rolled her eyes. She thought that King Yoon would stop her, but he did not say anything. When San Jiaoyan thought that she would be strangled to death, Yoon Chujia let go of her hand. She said coldly, strangling you to death is too easy for you. I'm going to cut off your flesh piece by piece and then sprinkle some chili on it. Don't you think it's interesting? Before the nun could answer, Yoon Chujia had already cut San Jiaoyan's face with a large kitchen knife. San Jiaoyan immediately cried out, I said, spare me. Yoon Chujia placed the knife on San Jiaoyan's neck and said coldly, what's going on? Where's my mother? Yi Lan and Yi Lan were locked in the cellar by us. Pandin 0 who told you to lie about my mother eloping with someone? Tell me. Yoon Chujia wished she could kill the nun immediately, but she had to endure it for the time being in order to find out the truth. The nun shot a glance at King Yoon. She seemed to want to say something but she hesitated. Yoon Chujia gently cut the knife in San Jiaoyan's hand, and the nun quickly said, yes, it was the princess who sent us a message and asked us to do this. Yoon Chujia asked slowly, do all the people in the nunnery know about this? The nun with triangular eyes was afraid that Yoon Chujia would really kill her. So she asked Yoon Chujia, San Jiaoyan, do you know about this? She said hurriedly, we all know. We all know that the princess has given us a lot of benefits and asked us to mistreat the Yi family. We were forced to do so. Otherwise, the princess wouldn't forgive us. Yoon Chujia's face was as cold as ice. She let go of the nun with triangular eyes and said, where is the cellar? Take me there. San Jiaoyan glanced at Duke Yoon and was so frightened by the murderous look in his eyes that she almost fell to the ground. She quickly led the group to the main hall of the nunnery hall. After removing the Buddha statue, a cellar entrance was revealed. The group walked down the stairs. It was cold and damp in the cellar. Yoon Chujia was full of hatred. Good, very good. How could she treat her mother like this? None of them could live. Under the dim candlelight in the cellar, Yoon Chujia saw a bed leaning against the wall. There was no bedding on it, only some straw. A woman was curled up on the bed with her back facing the crowd. Yoon Chujia's heart was full of bitterness and anger. She quickly walked over and said in a trembling voice, Mother, mother, I'm late. Mother, I'm here to save you. Seeing that the person on the bed had no reaction, Yoon Chujia's hands trembled as she went to help the woman up. Her hands felt ice cold. Yoon Chujia's head buzzed. Could it be that her mother was already dead? Yoon Chujio bit her lips and helped the woman up. However, when she saw the woman's appearance, she was stunned. She had seen Yilan's portrait at Li Nyang's place. This dead woman was not Yilan at all. What was going on? Duke Yun had obviously also realized that something was amiss. He kicked Sanjaoyan's body. This is not Yilan at all. Where exactly is Yilan locked up by you? If you don't tell me the truth, I will kill all of your family members. San Jiaoyan and the other nuns quickly knelt on the ground. Duke, please spare my life. Duke, please spare my life. We really locked Yilan up here. I just don't know how. How did it become a meditation? King Yun asked the other nuns, and they all said the same thing. They had indeed locked Yilan up in the cellar the day before yesterday, but they did not know how they became this meditation nun. Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time. Yun Chuzhou narrowed her eyes. She could tell that these nuns were not lying. It seemed that something else must have happened after her mother was locked in the cellar. Did her mother escape by herself, or was she rescued? Or was she taken away by someone? Yun Chuzhou clenched her fists tightly under her sleeves. She was angry, blamed herself, and felt helpless. The mother and daughter were like fish on a chopping board. They could only be slaughtered by others. This feeling was terrible. Zhang Shi, I will kill you sooner or later. Yun Chuzhou carried a large kitchen knife and walked to the front of the nun with San Jiaoyan. She cut off her neck with the knife. Ji Mama cried out in shock, "Ninth Miss, what do you want to do?" Yun Chuzhou ignored her and walked to the other nuns with the kitchen knife. These nuns were restrained by King Yun's spiritual power and could not resist at all. Seeing the murderous intent in Yun Chujia's eyes, all of them kept begging for mercy. "Miss Zhou, please spare my life. Spare my life." This was all instigated by the princess. We were forced. Forced? It was clearly you who tortured my mother for some benefits. Now that my mother is gone, what use is there for you to be alive? Yun Chuzhou said as she killed all the nuns one by one. Ji Mama wanted to stop her, but was stopped by Lord Yun. Lord Yun's eyes flashed with a strange light as he allowed Yun Chuzhou to kill all the nuns. Yun Chuzhou looked at Lord Yun with a sarcastic look. "Eldest uncle, I'll leave the rest to you. After all, you're so warm-hearted that you came all the way here to see my mother." Yun Chuzhou now completely understood why her mother was locked up in the Yun family's nunnery hall. There was a high chance that Lord Yun coveted her mother, and that Zhang Shi made up some nonsense about her mother seducing Lord Yun. This infuriated the old princess consort. Any family would naturally not tolerate such a scandal. That was why the old princess consort was so disgusted with Yilan. This Duke Yun was coveting his sister-in-law. He was worse than a beast. What was he doing here? He must be up to no good. Perhaps he was planning to use her to coerce Yilan into submission. He was simply shameless to the extreme. Duke Yun stared at Yun Chuzhou with a gloomy expression. "Little girl, for the sake of your mother, I won't argue with you this time. If you still don't know what's good for you, our Yun family won't have much more of you. We won't have much less of you. You better take care of yourself." Yun Chuzhou curled the corners of her lips and glanced at King Yun with a faint smile. Then she turned to the sweating Ji Mama and said, "Ji Mama, since my mother isn't here, let's go." Ji Mama wished that she could leave this place as soon as possible. The killing intent between King Yun and Yun Chuzhou was suffocating. She was really afraid that King Yun would kill Yun Chuzhou in a fit of anger. If Yun Chuzhou was really killed by Lord Yun, perhaps he would kill her to silence her. Then she was really unlucky. Ji Mama bowed to Lord Yun and followed Yun Chuzhou out of the cellar. Ji Mama said carefully, "Ninth Miss, since Madame Yi has gone missing, we'd better go back quickly. Otherwise, the old princess will be very worried about you." Ji Mama's attitude was much more respectful than before, because she found that although this ninth young Miss spiritual power was low, the murderous aura around her now made people involuntarily fear her. "Well, let's go." Yun Chuzhou walked out of the Yun family nunnery with determined steps. After Yun Chujo left the Yun family nunnery, she remained silent all the way. The reason why she killed all the nuns was partly because she hated them for mistreating Yilan, and partly because she wanted to silence them. She felt that Yilan was most likely saved by someone. After all, if they wanted to harm her, they could just kill her directly. There was no need to go through so much trouble. If those nuns were interrogated by King Yun and found any clues, Yilan would probably fall into his hands. At that time, he might use some despicable means to force Yilan. Since that was the case, she would cut off all clues. If her mother wanted to see her, she would naturally have a way to find her. Even if it was worse when she took control of the Cloud Mansion in the future, her mother would definitely come and recognize her. As for how she would take control of the Yun residence, that was completely out of this fellow's consideration. This fellow had always had this kind of mysterious confidence. Yun Chujo was thinking about something as she casually looked into the distance. Then she was stunned. Seeing that Yun Chujo had stopped moving, Ji Mama said anxiously, "Miss Jo, the sky is going to turn dark soon. We have to hurry." Yun Chujo pointed at the ancestral grave of the Yun family in the distance. "Ji Mama, why do I feel that the shape of the ancestral grave is a little strange? Is it built according to the formation?" The corner of Ji Mama's eyes twitched violently. "Miss Jo, how is this possible? You must be upset because Madame Yi has gone missing." Yun Chujo shook her head. It was true. She had never heard that the ancestral grave had to be built according to the formation. How many years would it take to complete the formation? The 20 guards brought by Ji Mama did not go up the mountain. They had been waiting at the foot of the mountain, so they did not know what had happened. However, when they saw the gloomy faces of Yun Chujo and Ji Mama, they naturally did not dare to ask further. They quickly followed behind the two of them. When they passed by the ancestral tombs of the Yun family, Yun Chujo took a few more glances from afar. She did not find anything strange, so she followed Ji Mama and the others into the dense forest. After walking for more than half a day, the sky had completely turned dark. They had no choice but to find an empty space in the dense forest and prepare to spend the night there. Yun Chujo was rather uneasy and could not help but frown. She said to Ji Mama, "We'd better hurry through the night. If anyone attacks us in this dense forest, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for us to escape." Ji Mama could not help but laugh. "Miss Jo, who in the East Phoenix Kingdom would dare to ambush us? Besides, we have 20 guards with us." Yun Chujo stood up. "Ji Mama, it's better to be careful in everything. Let's go. We'll travel through the night. If you want to rest, wait until we board the spaceship." If Yun Chujo talked to herself like that before today, Ji Mama would definitely ignore her. She was just a country bumpkin who was not valued. How could she still want to command her? However, after seeing Yun Chujo kill more than 10 nuns with her own hands, Ji Mama felt a little apprehensive. Therefore, although she did not think much of it, she still ordered the guards to follow behind Yun Chujo and continue to move forward. The guards were all very dissatisfied, but they were not in a hurry. Why did they have to rush through the night in the dark? This ninth miss had a brain. However, when they saw that Ji Mama seemed to be a little afraid of that country bumpkin ninth miss, they naturally couldn't say anything and could only follow. Very quickly, they were surprised to find that the country bumpkin ninth miss was walking extremely fast, almost twice as fast as when she came. They were very surprised. Wasn't this ninth miss only at the 8th layer of the ethereal space realm? How faster than them than the movement? This is too incredible. Yun Chujo dashed forward at her fastest speed. Although she did not know what kind of danger she would be in, she felt increasingly uneasy in her heart. She had to leave this dense forest as soon as possible. When they reached the outside of the dense forest, even if there was danger, with the help of the He Shure's men, they would at least be able to protect themselves. As the crowd sped forward, a guard suddenly exclaimed, "There seems to be someone chasing us from behind, and there are quite a number of them." Some of the guards replied indifferently, "How is that possible? It's impossible for there to be anyone else in this forest." Yun Chujia's heart instantly sank. Could it be King Yun's men? That's right. That shameless bastard might want to kill her. or even kill everyone to silence her. After all, the fact that he secretly went to the Yun clan's nunnery could not be leaked, or else his reputation would be tarnished. Thinking of this, Yun Chujo said coldly, "If you don't want to die, then leave quickly." The guards were startled by Yun Chujia's cold voice, and they subconsciously quickened their pace. Unfortunately, when they were about 5 miles away from the exit of the dense forest, the people behind them still caught up and surrounded them. The faces of those people were covered with black cloth, only revealing pairs of eyes full of killing intent. The leader raised his hand and shouted, "Kill! Leave no one alive!" G-Mama protected Yun Chujio, and the guards hurriedly accepted the challenge. However, the enemy had more than 3 times as many people as them, and their spiritual power was obviously higher than theirs. In less than an hour they would die without a doubt. G-Mama inwardly cursed her bad luck. How could she have thought that she would only accompany a country bumpkin to the nunnery hall, and she would end up getting herself killed? She had seen a ghost. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. If she fought head-on, there was no way she could survive. She had to think of a way to stall for time. This place was only 5 miles away from the exit. It was possible that the people arranged by the He-Sure would rush over to help when they heard the commotion. As long as those people came, it was uncertain who would win. Yun Chujo thought of this. She coldly said, "Although your master is my eldest uncle, G-Mama is one of the old consort's people. I am the 9th young miss of the Yun family. If you really kill us today, you will all die sooner or later. Your family members will also die. Even the dogs in your family will die." When those masked men heard Yun Chujia's words, their actions clearly paused for a moment. G-Mama instantly knew that Yun Chujia's guess was true. These people were actually sent by King Yun to silence them. G-Mama felt both hatred and fear in her heart. Pandian 0v1 Siam. At first, she thought that it was the Yi group who shamelessly seduced the king, but now it seemed that it was the exact opposite. The king was coveting the Yi group and was afraid that she would tell the old princess about it. Now he actually wanted to silence her. G-Mama felt her head buzzing. Since these people were ordered by the king to kill them, even if they managed to escape death this time, they would probably die sooner or later when they returned. The guards following G-Mama did not enter the nunnery hall, so they were confused. Why did the Royal Highness want to kill G-Mama and Miss Jiu? Was he crazy? Yun Chujo saw that the masked men only paused for a moment, but their attacks did not decrease. She said loudly again, "Although the throne belongs to my eldest uncle now, don't forget that my grandfather is still alive. He can ask the emperor for an order to abolish Yun Fengjian's throne at any time. A man should leave some leeway in doing things. In the end, if we really pursue the matter, Yun Fengjian will be fine. You are all scapegoats." After hearing Yun Chujia's words, although the masked men's movements slowed down slightly, they still attacked fiercely. Yun Chujia's heart sank. It seemed that these people should be Prince Yun's men of sacrifice. No matter how much she tried to deceive them, it would be useless. She could only hope that those people from the He clan would rush over as soon as possible. Just as Yun Chujio was pondering, the guard's defensive line was broken through. Several masked men charged straight at Yun Chujio. G-Mama hurriedly took action to meet the enemy. Even though her spiritual power was not low, it was difficult for her to fight against 4 hands with 2 fists. Not to mention protecting Yun Chujio, even her own life could not be saved. G-Mama thought to herself, it's over. None of them would survive. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. It seemed that she could only reveal all her trump cards. Just as she was about to release De Hua and Meng Yanshou, dozens of people rushed over. Their faces were also covered with black cloth. Without saying a word, they started to fight with the masked men from before. Yun Chujio let out a long sigh. Luckily, these people came in time. After she returned, she really had to thank He-Sure. When the masked men from before saw that they were no match for them, the leader could only say gloomily, retreat. When they saw that the masked men had fled, the rest of them did not chase after them. They also did not greet Yun Chujio and the others and left without a sound. G-Mama wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. She was puzzled. Who were those people? Why did they have to save them? However, it was obviously not the time to discuss this. Everyone hurriedly left the dense forest. After boarding the flying spirit tool, they flew toward the Yun mansion at the fastest speed. G-Mama looked at Yun Chujia's cold little face and wanted to say something, but she hesitated. G-Mama, I know what you want to say. Now we have no other choice. You can tell Grandma about it. Besides Grandma, no one can protect us. Besides, don't say anything about me killing those nuns, Yun Chujio said coldly. G-Mama nodded. At this moment, she was so regretful that her intestines were turning green. If she had known that coming out would bring about a fatal disaster, she would not have come no matter what. However, it was too late to say anything now. Ninth Miss was right. Now, besides the old princess consort, no one else could save them. After the old princess consort received G-Mama's voice transmission talisman, she almost fainted from anger. When the old princess saw the old royal highness, she told him everything. The old royal highness immediately flew into a rage. Vile creature. He's simply worse than a pig or a dog. Coveting his sister-in-law and chasing after his niece, what is he trying to do? I'll ask an imperial decree to cripple this beast right now. The old consort pulled the furious old royal highness back. Royal highness, calm down first. You have to think twice. That beast boss is really hateful. However, the Yun family army's tiger talisman is in boss hands. If he were to be flustered and go all out, I'm afraid that even the emperor would be apprehensive and would not agree to it at all. Moreover, with this mess, our Yun family's reputation will be completely ruined. If things go wrong, the Yun family will fall apart and it will be even harder to end things. The old royal highness panted heavily as he sat on the chair dejectedly and said, Back then, I shouldn't have given the Yun family army's tiger talisman to that bastard. Back then, when Feng Jin was in trouble, my mind was in a mess. I was muddle-headed and let that bastard take control of the military. I really regret it back then. The old princess sighed again and again. Your Highness, it's not your fault. The third, fourth, and fifth are all more useless than the last. At that time, we could only let the eldest inherit the throne. If the second was still alive, we wouldn't be in such a difficult situation. Sigh. After a moment of silence, the old prince finally said, No matter what, protect little Joe first. Boss and Zheng Shi are not easy to deal with. You should take care of little Joe a little more. As for the matter of the throne, I will investigate the younger generation of Jifeng and the others. If there is a suitable one, I will slowly plan to abolish that beast's throne. The old princess nodded. The Yi family has already disappeared. I reckon that boss will not cause any trouble for the time being. I will give Zheng Shi a good beating. Little Joe will be fine. It's just that that child is too kind. She doesn't have the heart to guard against others at all. It really makes one's heart ache. That's right. Little Joe is kind and filial. She is a well-behaved child. Send a few more people with high spirit energy to protect her. Otherwise, she will be harmed by those things that are worse than pigs and dogs. The old prince sighed. Hei Xinjiu, who was thought to be Little Lotus, was thinking about her next step. The cards in her hand were really limited. Other than relying on the old royal highness and the old consort's care, she didn't seem to have any trump cards. Spiritual power scum. Connections scum. Wait, she still had one thing that wasn't scum, and that was that she had money. As the saying goes, money can make the devil push the millstone. As long as she planned well, she would definitely be able to take advantage of the situation. However, the most important thing now was to cultivate. Her own strength was not good enough, so she was still uncertain. Beside her, G-Mama saw Yun Chujia's expression fluctuating between worry and joy. She could not help but ask curiously, Miss Jo, do you know the people who came to save us? No. That's really strange. Who are they? Why did they save us? G-Mama was puzzled. I guess they think I'm pretty and want to be a hero to save the beauty. G-Mama. When the flying spiritual device landed, G-Mama's heart was finally relieved. She had finally returned safely. This trip was really a narrow escape. Yun Chuzhou and G-Mama hurried back to the Yun mansion, and then went straight to the old princess courtyard. The moment Hei Xinjiu saw the old consort, She threw herself into her arms and cried, "Grandma, sob, sob, I'm scared to death. Big uncle is so scary, he wants to kill me, sob, sob, so scary." The corner of G Mama's eyes twitched violently. This ninth miss was simply a drama queen. Was she scared? Why didn't she see that she was scared? Killing those nuns was like chopping melons and vegetables, and also teaching those masked men a lesson. It would be weird if she was scared. The old princess did not know that Hei Shinjo was acting. She hugged her and comforted her. "It's okay, it's okay. Grandmother will protect you in the future. Grandmother will arrange more guards for you in the future." You don't have to worry that someone will harm you. Yun Chujo wiped her tears with her sleeve and said pitifully, "Grandmother, it's a good thing that I have grandmother. Otherwise, I really wouldn't be able to live." The old imperial consort sighed. "It would have been great if you had agreed to be the imperial tutor's disciple. If that was the case, even if boss had the guts, he wouldn't dare to touch a single hair on your head." Yun Chujo cursed in her heart. That imperial tutor was already old enough to be her father. She wouldn't have taken a fancy to him. Besides, she still had a pretty boy. Thinking of debeaming, Yun Chujia's tears fell again. Then she thought of her mother and father who had gone missing. The fake tears turned into real tears and finally burst into tears. The old imperial consort was numb from her tears. Why was she crying again? Could it be because she mentioned the national advisor? Good. Grandmother will not mention the national advisor anymore. Little Gio, don't cry anymore. Hei Shinjo stopped crying. She hugged the old princess arm and said, "Grandmother, I'm really scared. Since eldest uncle dared to kill me and G Mama, he might do something to other people. Maybe he will hurt you and grandfather too. I don't dare to think about it." The old princess' face suddenly changed. If that bastard was pushed to a corner, he might really jump over the wall in desperation. She really should be on guard. Yun Chujo stole a glance at the old imperial consort's expression and continued, "Grandmother, as the saying goes, you can't do two things at once. It's better to distract first uncle and first aunt's attention. That way, they won't have the time to do anything bad." The old imperial consort listened to Yun Chujia's words thoughtfully, but she didn't say anything. She comforted Yun Chujo for a while before letting her go back. After Yun Chujo left, the old imperial consort asked G Mama, "Do you think little Ninth's words just now were intentional?" G Mama's heart was like a muttering dog. What could she say? She could only say vaguely, this servant can't say for sure. Perhaps ninth young miss was frightened, so she was a little agitated. The old imperial consort nodded. "You're right. Little ninth is kind-hearted, so she definitely doesn't have so many twists and turns. Sigh, this child is really too naive." G Mama wished she could shout out a few words. "Old princess consort, are you blind? Which eye did you see that she was kind-hearted?" She was kind-hearted? She was simple-minded? She was simply a little devil who killed without batting an eyelid, okay? However, G Mama did not dare to say it out loud. For some reason, she felt that ninth young miss was even more terrifying than King Yun. Seeing that G Mama did not look too well, the old princess thought that she was frightened, so she did not pay too much attention to it. She said, "What do you think can distract the eldest couple?" G Mama recalled what the little devil had told her before and said tentatively, "Master, the princess is jealous. Why don't you do something about it? If the two of them fight, they will naturally have no time to care about ninth young miss. Besides, third madam and the princess have not been on good terms. If you give some real power to third madam in the inner residence, the princess will have even less time to care about ninth miss." The old princess nodded. "The first thing is for you to get someone to do it. The second thing is for me to do." After Hei Shinjo returned to her courtyard, she released the news that her old illness had relapsed. The old princess consort thought that this fellow was frightened and hurriedly invited the imperial physician to come over to take a look. However, the conclusion was the same as last time. She could only recuperate slowly and there was really no good way. The old princess consort had no choice but to have someone take good care of her. From time to time she would send G Mama over to take a look. When the people of the Yun residence saw that the old princess consort valued He Shinjo so much, they also came over to take a look. When the He Shi arrived, Yun Chujo asked Shi Hua and Shi Shui to keep an eye on the outside. She respectfully bowed to the He Shi. Third aunt, little Joe thanks you for saving my life. The He Shi smiled. Little Joe, you're too polite. The people that third aunt sent were originally to protect you. Yun Chujo smiled faintly. Although that's the case, I still have to thank third aunt. Those guards left in a hurry and I didn't have the time to properly thank them. Third aunt, take me to pass these spirit stones to them. He sure saw the extra 1 million upper-grade spirit stones in her storage ring, and was instantly shocked. This little Joe, this is too much, isn't it? Third aunt, the kindness of saving a life should be repaid with a gushing spring. This isn't much at all. In addition, when I was talking to grandmother earlier, I mentioned third aunt a few times. According to grandmother, she wanted to hand over some matters of the imperial residence to you to take care of. He Shi's heart was filled with joy, but on the surface she said with a faint smile, "You little lass, you're spouting nonsense. The matters of this royal residence are all controlled by Zhang Shi. How could she possibly give me some? Third aunt, even if Zhang Shi is arrogant and despotic, doesn't she still have grandmother above her? Anyway, I heard that grandmother plans to hand over the clothes and cosmetics of the people in the residence to you." Yun Chujo said with a smile. When the He Shi heard this, she couldn't help but feel slightly excited. These two jobs were both lucrative. Although she wasn't short of money, who would complain about having too much money? Moreover, as long as she took care of these two matters, she could arrange for her own people. No matter what, it was a great thing. Yun Chujo glanced at the joy in the He Shi's eyes. She sighed softly. Third aunt, even if I don't tell you some things, you still know about them. In the Cloud King manor, only grandmother and third aunt can rely on me. As long as I can help, I won't say anything else. Third aunt, please take care of me more in the future. He Shi's heart turned a few times. She and Zhang Shi weren't on good terms to begin with. Although this little ninth lass was on her own, she had the old consort behind her, so they could work together. In any case, it didn't really matter. When she thought of this, He Shi smiled and said, "You child, third aunt will naturally take care of you." Yun Chujo smiled. She lowered her voice. Third aunt, there are some outrageous things that I can only say to you. I heard that the position of crown prince is not that secure. The reason why he likes sister Shi Yu is because of the Yun family army in first uncle's hands. In other words, whoever controls the Yun family's army is the master of King Yun's residence. He sure was shocked. She obviously didn't expect Yun Chujo to be so straightforward. She couldn't help but tremble slightly as she said, "Little Joe, what do you mean?" Third aunt, I don't mean anything. I just need to grab hold of my life when I do things. Otherwise, there's really no use for some small fights in the house. Also, third aunt, you don't have to worry about me. What can a lonely little lass like me do? Yun Chujo calmly replied. He Shi's heart pounded violently. The thoughts that she had been suppressing all this while once again rose up in her mind. She spoke with a trembling voice. You have a way to obtain the tiger talisman of the Yun clan army? Also, even if you obtain the tiger talisman, it's useless. How would the Yun clan army listen to your third uncle's orders? Third aunt, there are some things that I don't have to tell you. Grandfather is extremely disappointed with uncle. The reason why he didn't submit a petition to cripple uncle was because he was afraid of the tiger talisman in his hands. It was useless for others to have the tiger talisman, but when the tiger talisman was in grandfather's hands, the Yun family army would naturally listen to his orders. At that time, grandfather would cripple uncle, and third uncle would have made a great contribution. Third aunt, your mother's family is Prince Ping's residence, so the throne would naturally fall to third uncle. Third aunt, at that time you were consort Yun, sister Shilian was Princess Shilian, and brother Zhichen was the crown prince. How wonderful! Yun Chujo said with a faint smile. The scene that Yun Chujo described had already been described countless times in the He Shi's mind. All along, she felt that she was more suitable for the title of consort Yun than the Zhang Shi. How could she not be moved by Yun Chujia's words? Little Joe, do you have any way to obtain the tiger talisman? He sure asked in a trembling voice. It's very simple. Find a woman that can interest my eldest uncle, and create a few coincidental encounters. Then get that woman to ignore him. He will naturally think of a way to please that woman. Then, get that woman to think of a way to get him to take out the tiger talisman for her to see. Once the tiger talisman is in his hands, he must immediately deliver it to grandfather. This is to prevent any more trouble. Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time. Little Joe, is this possible? Did your grandfather tell you this? He sure felt that this method was not very reliable. The method was thought up by me and G Mama, but grandfather really wants to get the tiger talisman back. Yun Chujo said very naturally. This fellow had never been careless when it came to lying. He sure heard Yun Chujo say that the method was thought up by her and G Mama, so she naturally thought that the old consort knew about this matter, so she had a lot of confidence in her heart. However, this matter was very important. She still said, Little Joe, I'll think about it when I go back. I'll give you an answer tomorrow. Yun Chujo nodded. Third aunt, right now, eldest uncle is in a bad mood. After this period of time, I'm afraid our plan won't work anymore. You have to make a decision as soon as possible. He sure nodded and left in a hurry. Hei Shinjo narrowed her eyes. It was G Mama who took the initiative to tell her about the tiger talisman. Although she was now instigating the he sure behind the old royal highness and the old consort's back, once the tiger talisman was in her hands, they wouldn't blame her. Desperate times called for desperate measures. As for he sure, she would definitely agree. After all, she had been thinking about it for so long and finally had a good opportunity. How could she not be tempted? Of course, once the tiger talisman was in her hands, it would not matter who the old royal highness chose to be the royal highness. However, she reckoned that the old royal highness would not hand the tiger talisman over to someone else for the time being. Hei Shinjo pondered for a while and felt that she had not missed anything. Only then did she remember who had saved her miserable mother? Logically speaking, Yilan should not have any family or friends on Atlas continent. Who had taken such a huge risk to save her? After thinking for a while, she still could not come up with a conclusion. This fellow then recalled her miserable cultivation method. She wondered if there would be heavenly lightning striking her on Atlas continent. On the one hand, she hoped that the heavenly lightning would strike her. On the other hand, she was worried that the heavenly lightning would be too strong. She had nowhere to hide. She was really at a loss. The more she thought about it, the more annoyed she became. She sat on the bed and counted her inventory with her spiritual sense. There were quite a number of talismans, but their level was too low. They couldn't pose much of a threat to the people in the towering sky continent. Previously, she had received the inheritance of the heaven-grade talismans from the heavenly Tao cliff. Unfortunately, she didn't have enough spiritual power now and couldn't make them. They were really useless. Hei Shinjo flipped through the pages and saw the 5 refined iron puppets. Because they were too weak, Yun Chujo had not used them for a long time. She did not know if they would break down after being unused for so long. Yun Chujo simply released the 5 puppets. Seeing that the spiritual stones in the puppet tray had all been used up, she stuffed the puppet tray full of spiritual stones. Then the 5 puppets opened their eyes. The 5 refined iron puppets knelt on one knee and said in unison, "Greetings, Master." Hei Shinjo was so scared that she almost sat on the ground. How could she still talk? She was scared to death. Although these puppets said it with spiritual sense, it still scared Hei Shinjo a lot. Previously, these puppets could only understand her orders, but they couldn't give back any information. How could they be so smart when they were just left there? Get up, get up. Hei Shinjo stammered. Only then did the 5 puppets stand up, lowering their hands and standing obediently in front of Hei Shinjo. Hei Shinjo rubbed her chin and pondered. These puppets seemed to be smarter than before, but this refined iron shell was really weak. She had to think of a way to refine some good materials to drive the shell. This way she would be able to lend a hand. This guy still had a few 10,000-year-old black iron chains, but the little flame was too weak to melt the 10,000-year-old black iron. Otherwise, refining a few puppets made of 10,000-year-old black iron would be awesome. Hei Shinjo blinked her eyes and decided to go to the shops on the street when she had time. If there were good puppets, she would buy a few and then modify them herself. The next day, He Sure came again in the name of delivering pastries. He Sure and Yun Chujo had a simple discussion. Then He Sure left in high spirits. After a few days, Yun Chujo heard Xihua gloating over Xihua's misfortune, and reported to her that Zhang Shi and Yun Fengjian were quarreling with each other. Then the old consort found Zhang Shi and gave the matter of clothes and cosmetics to He Sure. Zhang Shi was so angry that she quarreled with He Sure on the spot. After that, it was the old consort who reprimanded the two of them and then stopped. Yun Chujo curled her lips. This was just the beginning. Take it slow. There was no rush. This fellow felt that his illness should have recovered, so he went to greet the old imperial consort and the old royal highness. After acting coquettishly, Hei Shinjo said with a smile, "Grandmother, I want to go shopping on the street. I've been holding it in for the past few days." The old princess said with a smile, "That's true. You can go shopping then. Just ask them to come to the Yun mansion to settle the bill. I'll send some guards to protect you in secret." Hearing that she did not need to spend money, the smile on Yun Chujia's face became even brighter. The old princess was so coaxed that she could not even find the north. Mama curled her lips in her heart. The old princess was usually quite shrewd. How could she be blind when she met this ninth young miss? Why did she feel that such a cruel and cunning little devil was pure and kind? Hei Shinjo happily brought Xihua and Shui out of the Cloud King's mansion and soon arrived at the South Street, which was filled with shops. Because of the image of Hei Shinjo riding on the glory of the rabbit and the rumor spread by Princess Shiyu, many people were pointing fingers at Hei Shinjo. Do you see that? She is the ninth miss of the Cloud Mansion. She is the ninth miss who refused the imperial preceptor without knowing what was good for her. TSK, she is quite good-looking. No wonder the imperial preceptor took a fancy to her. There must be something wrong with her brain. Otherwise, why would she refuse the imperial preceptor? I think so too. Other people ride wildebeest, but she actually rode a broken rabbit. Moreover, I heard that she shamelessly said that she had done something outrageous with a wild man. I also heard about it. What do you mean by touching or not touching? She's really shameless. No wonder even the divine phoenix didn't accept her. Even I don't want such a piece of trash, let alone the divine phoenix. Xihua and Shui's faces flushed red. They glared at those people angrily, wishing that they could go over and give those people a good beating. Yun Chujo laughed lightly and motioned for the two of them to calm down. She jumped down from the rabbit and then looked at those people who were gossiping. When those people saw Yun Chujo looking at them with a faint smile, they could not help but feel a little guilty. Some of them shouted, "What are you looking at? Did we say something wrong? You rejected the national master to begin with. You have no sense of shame." Yun Chujia's smile deepened. She pointed at the people who were talking and said, "Men, send these people who are slandering the national master to the government." Immediately, the guards who were secretly protecting Yun Chujo controlled the people who were talking. Those people immediately became anxious. "What right do you have to say that we slandered the imperial tutor? You are slandering us." Yun Chujo sighed faintly. "I am someone who the imperial tutor wants to take in as a disciple. You say that I am worthless. Aren't you slandering the imperial tutor's judgment? So, you are slandering the imperial tutor. Take him away. The government will have a verdict." Those people were instantly dumbfounded. That's right, they were simply blinded by lard. No matter how bad Yun Chujo was, she was someone that the national master wanted to take in as a disciple. She was someone that the national master thought highly of, yet they made her look so bad. Wasn't that insulting the national master's taste? Those people were finally afraid. If they were sent to the government, insulting the imperial tutor would be a big crime. They might even be punished to dig for mines. If they were not careful, they might lose their lives. The more they thought about it, the more afraid they became. They fell to their knees with a plop. Ninth Miss, we were all out of our minds just now, so we said some nonsense. Please have mercy on us, my lord. Yes, Ninth Miss, we are also people. Our brains are not good and we are stupid. Please treat us as farts. Miss Jo, I have a mother and a child waiting to be fed. Please spare me this time. Yun Chujo did not speak for a long time. Just when those people were in despair. Yun Chujo said indifferently, "It's not that I'm ruthless. It's just that a woman's reputation is too important. However, you have also been fooled. Forget it, you can leave." When those people heard Yun Chujo's words, they immediately kowtowed and bowed, and then left dejectedly. Yun Chujo looked at the rest of the onlookers and said with a faint smile, "I don't know where you heard that version of me, making me sound so unbearable. In fact, the matter was very simple. The imperial preceptor had indeed taken a fancy to me, but because I already had someone in my heart, the imperial preceptor had helped me. As for sacrificing my body to the divine phoenix, it was also because the divine phoenix felt that I had a pitiful background and was kind-hearted, so it didn't take me in. If the divine phoenix dislikes me, wouldn't it be better to just kill me to avoid being an eyesore?" After Yun Chujo said this, she brought along the stunned Shi Hua and Shi Shui and continued strolling forward. The onlookers pondered for a while, and it seemed that what Yun Chujo said was the truth. What she said earlier was really a bit ridiculous, so they all dispersed after discussing in low voices. Not far away, two men stood on the second floor of an inn. They had a clear view of what had just happened. "Jichen, this ninth sister of yours is really not simple. She broke the rumor with such a simple toss. No wonder the imperial tutor wants to take her as a disciple." The one who spoke was the fifth prince, Lung Tianhong. The man beside the fifth prince was Yun Jichen, the third son of the Yun family. He frowned. "Your Highness, although this ninth sister of mine is eloquent, she is too sharp. She is just a little girl." The fifth prince looked at Yun Jichen with a smile that was not a smile. Then he said, "Jichen, I think she is not simple. How can the person that the national advisor has his eyes on be simple? And I heard that the reason why King Yun brought her back should be a hint from father." Yun Jichen frowned even more. Then he said, "Is it a hint from the emperor? If it was a hint from the emperor, why would eldest uncle have the intention to kill her? It's very simple. I reckon that King Yun feels that she has no value after rejecting the national advisor. Furthermore, she has exposed his scandal. Naturally, he will kill her to silence her." The fifth prince's face was filled with disdain and a cold smile. Without waiting for Yun Jichen to speak, the fifth prince continued, "You are the only good person in your Yun family right now. The rest are either mediocre, incompetent, or immoral. Therefore, you are the most suitable person for the position of King Yun. However, Yun Fengjian has a solid foundation now. I'm afraid we can't do anything to him in a short time. We still have to plan slowly." Hearing the fifth prince's words, Yun Zichen's face was slightly stiff. If my second uncle was still alive, our Yunwang manor wouldn't have become like this. Unfortunately, little ninth sister is a woman. If she were a man, she would be perfect as the Yunwang lord. After all, the Yun family army only became so powerful in the hands of second uncle. The fifth prince's eyes flashed and he said indifferently, "Without a son-in-law is also fine." Before Yun Jichen could react to the fifth prince's words, he saw the fifth prince turn around and leave the house. Yun Jichen was suddenly shocked. His Highness meant that. Could it be that he wanted to marry little Jiao? Yun Jichen did not have time to think and quickly chased after her. Yun Chujo had already entered a shop that sold equipment. The owner of the shop had already seen the commotion for half a day and knew that this Miss Jiao was not someone to be trifled with, hence, his smile was full of enthusiasm. "Miss Jiao, please take a look. If you like one, I will give you the best price." Yun Chujo nodded and glanced around the shop. She found a few puppets made of 1,000 hammer iron. She asked the owner to demonstrate them and found that they were not much different from the puppets she had seen before. It was just that they were more exquisite and sturdier. These puppets are a little weak in defense. Do you have any puppets made of better materials? Yun Chujo asked. Before the shop owner could say anything, he heard a gentle female voice say, Sister Jiu, why did you buy the puppets? Yun Chujo turned around and saw Princess Shiyu and Zheng Shuiying walking in. Princess Shiyu was smiling like a spring breeze, but Zheng Shuiying's eyes were full of resentment. Yun Chujo said with a smile, I bought it to protect myself. After all, I'm so weak. If I have a puppet, I can buy some time to escape. Zheng Shuiying sneered, then she said, Yun Chujo, it's not that I look down on you. Even if you have a puppet made of good materials, can you afford it? Besides, puppets are of little value. They can only defend but not attack. With that kind of money, you might as well buy more talismans. Thank you for your reminder, but I still want to buy a few puppets. Boss, do you have a puppet made of better materials? The price is not a problem. After all, this money is in the public accounts of the Cloud King's mansion. Yun Chujo said with a smile. Princess Shiyu's expression immediately changed. The official account of the Cloud King mansion? This Yun Chujo was really shameless. Puppets made of good materials were very expensive. Why should she go through the official account? The shop owner was overjoyed. He quickly said, Ninth Miss, there are a few thousand-year-old black iron puppets on the second floor. It can be said that they are the most valuable treasures in our shop. The items are definitely good, but because the price is relatively high and everyone doesn't know the goods, we haven't sold them. Yun Chujo raised her eyebrows. Is that so? Bring me up to take a look. Princess Shiyu's eyes flashed as she followed behind. She thought to herself, if the price was cheap, it would be fine. But if it was really expensive, no matter what, she couldn't let her go through the public accounts. She would definitely ruin it. Everyone went up to the second floor. After the shop owner opened a few restrictions, he opened another cabinet. There was a puppet inside. Almost at first glance, Yun Chujo decided to buy it, because this puppet was not only exquisitely made, but the material looked very hard. If she added the puppet disc with her spiritual sense, it would be a great killing tool. Although Yun Chujo was very fond of it in her heart, she looked indifferent on the surface. It looks alright. How much is it? 5 million upper-grade spirit stones. After saying that, the shop owner felt a little embarrassed. This price was really too expensive. It was enough to buy a high-quality flying spirit tool. It's not expensive. I'll buy as many of these puppets as you have. Yun Chujo said indifferently. Both the shop owner, Princess Shiyu, and Zheng Shuiying were stunned. This was 5 million high-grade spirit stones. Why did it feel as light as 5 high-grade spirit stones in her mouth? Moreover, how many did she want? The shop owner was the first to react. His old face smiled like a flower. Ninth Miss is really discerning. Such good things are naturally not expensive. I have a total of 5 such puppets here. A total of 25 million high-grade spirit stones. Hand over the goods. Then, go to the Yun mansion to get the spirit stones. Yun Chujo said indifferently. Alright, I'll help you take out all the puppets now. The shop owner was so happy that he did not want them at all. These 5 puppets had been placed here for decades. Today he finally found a sucker, Emma. It was simply like a pie falling from the sky. Hold on. Shop owner, wait a moment first. I'll have a few words with Ninth younger sister. Ninth younger sister, you just came back. Perhaps you don't know much about puppets, so you saw something new and insisted on buying them. Actually, this puppet is very useless. It can only passively defend and cannot actively attack. To be honest, it's better to buy some spirit tools or talismans. Moreover, 25 million is not a small amount. Even if the elders in your family pamper you, they won't let you squander it like this. Princess Shiyu said with a sincere tone. The corner of Yun Chujia's mouth slightly curled up. Then she smiled and said, Sister Shiyu, you don't have to worry about this. I haven't enjoyed the treatment of the Miss of the Yun Imperial residence for so many years. Even if it's an annual allowance of 2 million upper-grade spirit stones, it's not just these 25 million upper-grade spirit stones for so many years. I believe that first uncle and first aunt would not be reluctant to part with it. Princess Shiyu choked and took a deep breath. Ninth sister, it's not that I feel sorry for these spirit stones, but that you have to spend the money where it should be spent. These puppets are not worth so many spirit stones at all. The shop owner's face immediately turned ugly. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't afford to offend Princess Shiyu, he would have pointed at her nose and scolded her. Wouldn't this be disrupting his business? It was really hateful. Zheng Shuang, who was standing at the side, echoed, "Cousin, why are you talking so much with this country bumpkin? Anyway, the Cloud King Manor's money is under Aunt's control. You can tell this boss clearly that it's impossible for her to get the money even if she goes there. See how she can still buy it." When the shop owner heard Zheng Shuang's words, he immediately felt uncertain. Yes, this ninth Miss position in the Cloud Mansion was very awkward. She had spent so much money all of a sudden. Perhaps he really wouldn't be able to get the money in the Cloud Mansion. Wouldn't that be a great loss? Pandian 0v1m therefore. The shop owner laughed dryly and said, "Ninth Miss, how about this? I'll keep these 5 puppets for you. After you take the spirit stones, you can come and pick up the goods. What do you think?" Zheng Shuang revealed a mocking smile on her face. "Boss, I advise you not to have any hopes. The money of the Cloud King Manor was not earned by a strong wind. How could she spend 25 million to buy these puppets? There are some people. If you don't have money, don't come out and pretend to be rich. You really overestimate yourself. Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time." Before Yun Chuzhou could say anything, the sound of footsteps came from the stairway. Everyone subconsciously looked towards the stairway. When they saw that it was the 5th prince, Zheng Shuang's face instantly turned red, and her eyes were filled with fiery adoration. Princess Shiyu subconsciously straightened her back, and a faint smile appeared on her face. Although it was impossible for them to be together, she did not want to have any imperfections in front of him. Zheng Shuang shyly walked up to the 5th prince and bowed. "Your Highness, are you also here to buy something?" Pandinova when the 5th prince did not even look at her. Instead, he said to the shop owner, "Boss, give these 5 puppets to 9th Miss. I'll pay for them." "What? Your Highness, you want to buy these 5 puppets and give them to this country bumpkin? That's 25 million high-grade spirit stones." Zheng Shuang's heart was filled with jealousy as she shouted loudly. The 5th prince's face sank. "Do I need your permission to do anything? Who gave you the courage to question my words?" Zheng Shuang's face immediately turned pale with fright. A Princess Shiyu hurriedly said, "Your Highness, Shuang's hasty words offended you, please don't mind. She also had good intentions. Ninth sister might not have seen the puppets before, so she was curious and wanted to buy them all. However, this puppet costs 5 million high-grade spirit stones. It's really not worth it. Moreover, buying it back won't be of much use." When the 5th prince faced Princess Shiyu, his attitude was obviously much better. He softened his tone and said, "Since 9th Miss likes it, it's worth it no matter how much it is. Boss, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and hand the puppet over to 9th Miss. Are you afraid that it'll go back on my word?" The boss immediately shook his head in fear and eagerly went to get the puppet. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. What was this 5th prince up to? At this moment, Yun Jichen also chased over. He gave Yun Chuzhou a subtle wink, indicating that she should reject the 5th prince. Yun Chuzhou had seen Yun Jichen a few times before, but they were all at the Yun family gathering. Hence, she did not have a deep understanding of him. She only knew that he sure was the son of the He clan. Although Yun Chuzhou didn't know why Yun Jichen would give her a hint, she didn't want to accept the 5th prince's so-called good intentions. Thus she smiled and said, "5th prince, I appreciate your good intentions. However, I'll pay for these puppets myself. Although I'm a little poor, I can still afford these puppets." When the 5th prince heard Yun Chujia's words, he didn't insist. He only watched from the side. He had investigated very clearly. When this Yun Chujo returned to the Yun clan, she had clearly said that she only had 10 million upper-grade spirit stones. How was she going to pay the bill? Moreover, she could not count on the Yun mansion at all. The Yun mansion was now the head of the Zhengshi clan, so 250,000 might be able to help her pay. 25 million? Don't even think about it. In the end, she still had to let him help pay the bill. With this layer of involvement, it would be good for him to have more contact with her in the future. With his charm, he did not believe that Yun Chujo would not be moved. The boss thought that Yun Chujo was asking him to go to the Yun mansion to withdraw the money. He rubbed his hands together. Miss Jo, it's not that I don't believe you, but this amount is really too big. You should go back to the mansion to withdraw the money first. I will definitely keep the puppet for you. The corners of Yun Chujia's lips curled up. You don't have to go back to retrieve it. I will transfer it to you now. Zheng Shuiying smiled sarcastically. Yun Chujo, are you talking nonsense? You're paying now? Do you have that many spirit stones? I've heard that you only have 10 million spirit stones on you. Even if you take them all out, it's still not enough. Princess Shiyu said with a helpless tone, that's right. Ninth sister, don't try to be brave. How about this? If you really like it, you can buy a puppet back. Yun Chujo didn't even look at them. She directly passed the spirit stones to the boss and said, I'm in a hurry to have lunch. Hurry up and hand over the puppets to me. The boss looked at the 25 million upper-grade spirit stones in his storage ring. His mouth was wide open. After he came back to his senses, he eagerly handed the 5 puppets to Yun Chujo. The 5th prince and the others were dumbfounded. Was she really rich? Princess Shiyu clenched her fist. It must be the money that old fart gave her. She didn't expect that old fart to dote on this bitch so much. It was really hateful. Yun Chujo put the 5 puppets into her storage ring, and then said to the boss, I spent so much money. Shouldn't you give me something? The boss smiled like a flower. Of course. 9th miss, follow me to the 1st floor. You can pick a few things. Yun Chujo thought to herself, this boss sure knows how to do business. She ignored the others and followed the boss downstairs. The 5th prince's face was embarrassed for a moment, but he quickly returned to normal. He walked downstairs and saw Yun Jichen. He followed him downstairs. Zheng Shuiying stomped her feet. Cousin, where did that country bumpkin get so much money? He's really hateful. Princess Shiyu's eyes flashed with impatience. Enough. What's the point of saying all this now? It's better for you to think of a way to win the 5th prince's favor. When Zheng Shuiying heard what she said, she couldn't wait to go downstairs and chase after the 5th prince. Princess Shiyu pursed her lips. What an idiot. However, it would be good if she could marry the 5th prince. At least, she would be able to learn some of the 5th prince's actions and avoid harming the crown prince. Yun Chujo picked out a few spiritual artifacts and left the equipment store in high spirits. She said to Shi Hua and 11 Shui, let's go. I'll bring you to eat something good. The 2 handmaidens had not recovered from their young miss' extravagant behavior. They followed Yun Chujo out of the equipment store in a daze. Miss Jo, wait a moment. I haven't had lunch yet. I'll be the host today. Let's go together. The 5th prince said with a smile. Yun Chujo frowned slightly. Why did the 5th prince bother her? He was really annoying. She turned her head and said indifferently, 5th prince, I can't eat with people I don't know well, so let's eat separately. After saying that, Yun Chujo skipped away without looking back. The 5th prince clenched his fists, and a trace of haze flashed in his eyes. Zheng Shuiying fiercely glared at Yun Chujia's back and said shyly, 5th prince, she doesn't know what's good for her. Please don't be angry. Sister Shiyu and I also happen to be having lunch. Let's go together. Get lost. The 5th prince said with a cold expression. Pandian 0v1 Zheng Shuiying was so scared that she almost sat on the ground. The 5th prince was usually warm like the sun, but this was the first time she had seen such a sinister side of him. Princess Shiyu saw that the situation was not right and bowed to the 5th prince. Then she asked the maid to help the terrified Zheng Shuiying leave in a hurry. Yun Jichen, who was standing behind the fifth prince, had a flash in his eyes. He had not expected that his ninth sister would be so interesting. Not only did she dare to reject the national advisor, but now the fifth prince had also rejected her. Was it because she was ignorant and fearless, or was it because her lover was more outstanding than these two people? Panda N0ve1 at this moment. He also understood the meaning behind the fifth prince's previous words. It seemed that the fifth prince intended to marry his ninth sister and gradually take over the Yun family's army. This would greatly benefit him in ascending to the throne. It had to be said that in terms of scheming, the fifth prince was much stronger than the crown prince. After a moment, the fifth prince's expression returned to normal. He smiled and said to Yun Jichen, "Your ninth sister is different from the rest. This prince's interest in her is growing." Yun Jichen, he smiled. The fifth prince is joking. Ninth sister may have just arrived at Towering Sky Continent, so she is not very sensible and offended your highness. I hope your highness does not mind. The fifth prince gave Yun Jichen a deep look. Jichen, why do I feel that you are not very supportive of me pursuing your ninth sister? The smile on Yun Zichen's face did not diminish. Your highness, you are thinking too much. It is her fortune that you have taken a fancy to little Jiao. You are just afraid that she is not sensible and will annoy you. Moreover, she had previously rejected the imperial preceptor. If you really asked to marry little Jiao, I'm afraid that the emperor might not necessarily agree to it out of consideration for the imperial preceptor's face. The fifth prince frowned. This was indeed a problem. He had to test the imperial tutor and his father's attitude first. Yun Chuzhou brought Xihua and Xishui to eat and drink. After buying a lot of food, she rode the giant rabbit back to the Yun mansion. As soon as she entered the Yun mansion, a maid came over and said, "Ninth miss, the old princess has asked for you to come over." Yun Chuzhou sneered in her heart. It was probably that little bitch Shiyu who had complained. Just jump around, you won't be able to jump around for more than a few days anyway. Yun Chuzhou let Xihua and Xishui return to the courtyard first while she jumped into the old imperial consort's courtyard by herself. As soon as she entered the house, she saw that Zheng Shi and Princess Shiyu were both there. The old imperial consort sat on the main seat with a gloomy expression. "Grandmother, I bought your favorite almond cake and Zhongjia shortbread. I waited for a long time before I bought them. They're still warm now, please try them." He Xinzhou smiled and came to the old imperial consort's side and said. The old consort's expression immediately eased up. Seeing this, Zheng Shi hurriedly said, "Little Jiao, I heard from Shiyu that you spent 25 million upper-grade spirit stones to buy 5 puppets. Is that true?" Yun Chuzhou nodded. "Yes, that's true. And it's good that you're here. Please report the bill to me. I haven't enjoyed the treatment of a miss of the Yun mansion for so many years, so ill-treat it as a one-time compensation. I won't mind if I suffer or not." Zheng Shi's face stiffened. She had never expected Yun Chuzhou to say that. "Little Jiao, it's not that first aunt doesn't want you to spend money, but even if we have money, it's not the way to spend it, is it? 25 million to buy 5 puppets is simply not worth it." Yun Chuzhou's face revealed a slightly mocking expression. "First aunt, why do you think I buy puppets? Of course it's to protect myself. I'm so weak and people often want my life. Of course I have to spend a lot of money to buy some things to protect myself. Although the puppets are weak, the materials used to make these 5 puppets are very hard. At least they can buy me some time to escape. In my eyes, my little life is much more important than spirit stones." When the old imperial consort heard Yun Chuzhou say this, the anger on her face immediately turned into pity and guilt. She said, "Boss, little Jiao is right. She has been living on the streets all these years. Not to mention spending 25 million, even spending 100 million is not excessive. You should pay her back." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.